Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry I'm late. Sound problems again. This is driving me absolutely insane. I don't understand why this is happening, but it's driving me up a fucking wall. Also, we have to find something to play. However, I've written a few scripts for my main channel that I want to go through. Should we go through those first? I'm not sure. Why don't we take a poll? Actually, no. Poll will take too long. Let's go through one of the scripts first. That means I won't be able to play a game anyway, because I'll be reading. All right. Let's take a poll on which one we do first. Which script comes first? We'll probably do all of them between today and tomorrow. But which one do we hit first? When Jehovah's Witnesses wrote to Hitler. Letter. Yeah. The JW blood ban. Or I don't remember if I finished the Nazi Christians. Did I finish this script? I don't remember if I finished it, but I'm putting it in anyway. Let's see. The Nazi-fied Christian movement. All right, which one do we hit first? You guys got to let me know what you think. In the meantime, let me pull up this video here. Open. Wait, no, that's the wrong one. Hold on. It's this one. Yes, it's a Christian nationalist, Doug Wilson, talking to Piers Morgan. Let's just start at the Doug Wilson section. We don't need to watch the whole thing. Yeah. All right, here we go. Yeah. All right. The Nazified Christian movement. Really? That one's the popular one, huh? So far? Okay. Interesting. I didn't expect that. We'll get there. For now, let's start on Doug Wilson, though. And then we'll come back to the scripts. Good day. Good day, patriot of the West. As my friends across the pond say, good day. All right. This is Doug Wilson on the right, Piers Morgan on the left. He's a Christian nationalist who says slavery was good and we should have more of it today. That it was prosperous for black people. Yet, seriously, insane, vile, evil, disgusting scumbag. Listen to this. Hold on. Here.
Al-Wajaha Ali, author of The Left Hook on Substack, from The Bulwark, commentator Tim Miller, and Pastor Doug Wilson, a senior minister and author of No Such Thing as Bad Words. Michael Knowles will also be joining us imminently. Well, welcome to all of you. Pastor Doug Wilson, welcome to you, to Uncensored. I've just interviewed the former Prime Minister of Italy, Matteo Renzi, who said that President Trump had been blasphemous with the imagery he'd been posting about himself as Jesus Christ, and he angrily condemned Donald Trump's attack on Pope Leo. What is your response to that?
So this guy does not like Catholics at all. I am going to bet that he's going to praise Trump for attacking Pope Leo.
On Pope Leo. What is your response to that?
Thanks for having me first. I would divide my response into two categories. One, I think that image was blasphemous, and I tweeted that fact. I thought it ought to be printed on black velvet so we could call it blasphemous and tacky. So,
okay, I guess he thought that was funny. Awesome. It was tacky, too. We don't need to print it on black velvet for it to be tacky. He's talking about the picture of Trump as Jesus that Trump posted to his thing. Interesting.
It was not a good image. No bueno. Not defending it. Glad the president took it down. I'm glad he responded to criticism, albeit somewhat lamely. He had a red robe, he was robed, not with a stethoscope. So that was one thing. The other thing was his scrape with the Pope. I would put that in a different category. The Pope was a Chicago lefty before he became...
No, he wasn't. He was from Chicago. He's not a left-winger, the Pope isn't. I'm not going to let them get away with rewriting the Pope's political positions. You know, I study World War II extensively. I know so much about it. I've written a book about it, and I'm in the middle of writing a book about it now. Another book called God's People. A collection of essays about major figures in the Third Reich, religious figures in the Third Reich, and how they dropped the ball and allowed all of this bad shit to happen. In fact, maybe even wanted it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. This is exactly what happened in Nazi-era Germany with the religious leadership. They did this exact same thing.
In a different category. The Pope was a Chicago lefty.
They plastered anybody they didn't like as left-wing, even when they weren't left-wing. They claimed the Pope was communist because he didn't support what Hitler was up to. And it's arguable whether he supported what Hitler was up to. I argue that he kind of did. In fact, I don't argue that. That's just the fact. Like, that is the conclusion, the consensus that scholars have come to. The Pope supported what Hitler was doing because he was anti-communist. But you oppose anything that anybody does on the right, and they turn into cancel culture victims and start talking about how you're a pro-communist because you're anti-Trump, then you're pro-communist in their mind. It's insane.
Before he became Pope, and he is speaking bromides, inserting God into a geopolitical event, while at the same time objecting to other people injecting God. I'd just like to know what the rules are. If Pete Hegseth tweets as though he were a believing Christian, and the president tweets as though he's not a Christian, why are we upset at both? What are the rules?
What the fuck is he talking about? I'm sorry, I don't understand what he's even saying. Why are we upset at both? Well, if Pete Hegseth is not saying overtly religious shit. By the way, this is Pete Hegseth's pastor. I don't know if I mentioned that. I probably should have at first. If Pete Hegseth says something that is really fucking stupid, but does not violate the separation of church and state, my problem with it is how stupid it was.
Rules here. And secondly, if Hegseth is a particular kind of Christian and he is speaking that way, he's speaking from his conviction with regard to the war, and the Pope is doing the same thing, a different variation, a different stream of Christianity, but he's speaking to international relations, and he's applying his understanding of the faith to it. Well, why does he get to do that and other people don't?
It's interesting. So I guess his question is, if somebody is anti-war, it appears as though the left celebrates their faith getting involved in their politics. If they're anti-war, then we're okay with them using their political positions, or they're using their religious beliefs within their political position. The fact is, I'm not okay with people using their political position. Or let me rephrase. The fact is, I'm not okay with anybody using their faith to guide their political decisions overtly. Certainly not melding political positions with faith and erasing the barrier between them. I don't care what reason somebody has for doing something, but it shouldn't be based on their religious conviction, because we don't live in a religious theocracy. But Hegseth is using his religious beliefs to commit war crimes, and that's a problem. Everybody should see that as the problem that it is, right? In one situation, there are dead children. In the other, there are not dead children. So yeah, I do have a problem with him, injecting his religious opinion into politics as a member of the U.S. government, but I would have a much smaller problem with it if it didn't lead to dead children. That being said, the Pope is not a member of the U.S. government, so he's not melding U.S. politics with religious conviction. The things that he's saying and doing are being said and done from a religious position, not a political position. And you can talk about your beliefs on war all you want until you're blue in the face. Go fucking nuts. I don't care. What I care about is when you are in a political position, using that position in politics to push the United States closer toward your religious vision. That's an issue for me.
Okay, well, Tim Miller, you're a Catholic, I believe. Is that right?
Well, I'm a cradle Catholic. Piers, we're all on a journey together. I'm not.
Okay, that was the most forced laugh I've ever heard in my life. It felt like Piers didn't get the joke and decided to laugh anyway. What the fuck just happened? That was bizarre. One more time.
We're all on a journey together. I'm not.
No, I was just curious what you feel about the row between the Pope and the President. Has what the Pope been saying crossed a line in terms of political commentary? No. Or is he just being consistent to what most popes do, which is preach about peace and not war?
Yeah, I think that the people that think that the Pope has crossed a line, have, no memory, or didn't start paying attention to the news or to the Pope before Donald Trump was around. Pope Leo's comments are in line with what we've heard from popes going all the way back to Pope John Paul. And Pope John Paul II opposed both Iraq wars.
That could be, yeah. I'm not sure about John Paul, but I know that in World War II, Pope Pius XI, a taken name, like he chose the name. I'm not sure. I think he was opposed to the war specifically, but what I've been focused on is whether he was opposed to attacking Jews. And he sided with Hitler explicitly and openly and instructed his bishops to swear an oath of loyalty to Hitler because he viewed it as a dichotomy. It was either the fascists or the communists, and he didn't want the communists to win. So he chose to sign a Reichskonkordat with Hitler and his government that mandated that they sign an oath of loyalty so that they could fight against the communists. Pope Pius XII, who took control in 1939, February 11th, I think, is when Pope Pius XI died. And Pacelli took over and took the name Pius XII shortly after. He was much more in favor of Hitler than the others. He did oppose him. He did work against him, but he was willing to work with him. And ever since then, people have learned that siding with dictatorships doesn't usually end well, because they can't be trusted to hold up their end of the bargain, basically. So the policy officially has been to support democracies since after World War II. And, you know, I have a problem with concordats generally, even if they're being done with democracies. A concordat is just a treaty, a Vatican treaty. And the problem is that the Catholic Church uses them to gain leverage in underdeveloped countries or in democratically weak countries. So they will pick a side in a civil war, and they'll say, we support this side. They have our blessing, and they have a lot of sway among people a lot of the time. They have medical supplies and, you know, all kinds of shit. And so they'll say, we support this side, and in return, you allow us to control the school system. You allow us to teach the children about Jesus in schools. You allow us to control parts of the government. The problem is that when these things happen, when these treaties are drafted, it's usually when the governments are at a politically weak moment, and the people with whom they made the deal to get these medical supplies and things, that person is fleeting. He won't be there tomorrow or the day after or in 10 years. But the treaty is forever. So the Vatican gains soft power over a country forever by signing these concordats with them and giving them these medical supplies and giving them their political support to this person or that person. But this country is now forever beholden to the Catholic Church. Forever. Concordats are not good. That's what Hitler thought he was, or I'm sorry, that's what Pius XI thought he was doing with Hitler. But it ended up kind of blowing up in his face because dictatorships can't be trusted to hold up their end of a bargain, bottom line. Anyway, the earlier popes from the 70s and 80s were super anti-communist right-wing nutcases. So I think it was John Paul, or one of the John Pauls or something, who is a right-wing anti-communist nutcase.
Did so vocally. And, you know, I don't recall George H.W. Bush or George W. Bush getting into a fight with the Pope. Multiple popes have criticized Democratic leaders for their stances on abortion and other issues.
Yeah, like Nancy Pelosi and Biden were even denied communion for their position on abortion at one point or another.
Remember Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi telling the Pope to shut his pie hole when he weighed in on, you know, the Catholic teaching on abortion?
They're both Catholics, by the way.
Donald Trump wants to make everything about himself. He wants to pick this fight because that's the only thing he knows how to do is bully people and pick fights. So it's kind of what we'd expect for Donald Trump. It's a little confusing for J.D. Vance, who converted to Catholicism 2 seconds ago and then decided to write a book about his conversion, to now come out and say that the Pope needs to be careful when he speaks about theology.
Right? Oh, my God.
As if J.D. Vance, who's been a Catholic for 2 minutes, knows more about Catholic doctrine and just war theory than the Pope. I think probably he would benefit from listening to the Pope. And I don't know who is really buying that from him, from the vice president. Like, why? You know, it's not as if he comments about how Donald Trump should be careful with his language ever.
Seriously, oh my God, this dude is so on point.
J.D. Vance never criticizes Donald Trump, but now all of a sudden he simultaneously went through this conversion to MAGA-hood, where he's a Donald Trump acolyte, and he went through a conversion to Catholicism at the same time. It's very phony and it's very fake, and I don't think it's helping either of them politically.
Yeah, which the fascinating thing to me, I'm a Catholic, and so I don't like seeing people trashing the Pope for just saying what a pope is expected to say, I would argue, which is to preach peace, not war. But what's interesting is the politics of this. 20% of Americans are Catholic, many of whom will have voted for Donald Trump. And the latest NBC News poll showed that Pope Leo has a 34-point net favorability in his personal approval rating.
Wow, that is really high. Holy shit, dude. What is that, 70% approve or something? I'm not sure what that would be. Yeah. Hold on, let me see if I can find an answer to that. 1 second here. It's kind of toasty up in this piece. Turn that puppy down. Hold on, let me just see if I can find some info. I'm sorry. Let's see. Pope Leo's okay, I'll see if I can find it here.
Donald Trump minus 12. Pope Leo is one of the most popular public figures in the United States. He's the first American pope. People like the guy. And 42% of Americans view the pope favorably compared to 41% for Trump. So
those numbers are a little outdated, what he just cited. About 60% of Americans approve of Leo's performance compared to 36% for Trump. His 57% favorable rating and 11% unfavorable rating gave him a 46% net favorable score. This is July 2025, far ahead of any other global or domestic figure tested. Gallup International End of Year Survey, October to December 2025. Leo was the only contemporary global leader to register a positive net reputation worldwide, with 49% favorable, 25% unfavorable across 61 countries. Interesting. Francis peaked at 57 in December 2013. Benedict, which came before him, who was a member of the Hitler Youth, sat around 30% before his resignation. He was also responsible for taking advantage of children, or facilitating people taking advantage of children, if I remember. And John Paul II hit 65% in 1998. So Leo is tracking between Francis and John Paul II in U.S. favorability. Strong is what it looks like. Not yet at the height of John Paul's peak. Okay. Now we know. And as my friend G.I. Joe says, knowing is half the battle.
No real upside here politically for Trump, which does beg the question, why is he doing it?
Because he's a fucking idiot. You're pretending that he does things for political favorability, that's even on his mind. It's not. He's a moron, okay? Everybody knows he's a moron, and if you don't know that, then you're a moron too. Like people seem to think he thinks 5 steps ahead. He doesn't.
Well, I actually went to an all-boys Jesuit Catholic high school, so if I may bring out a banger from the Bible, because we have such a religious panel today. This was Jesus' warning in Matthew chapter 7, verse 15. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. That's for you, Pastor Wilson. But speaking about the Pope, it's terrible politics, like you said. First and foremost, this is the spiritual leader of over 1 billion people. The Pope, just because he wears a costume and has the Pope-mobile, Donald Trump thinks he's a politician who fights crime. I think Donald Trump thinks the Pope is Batman. No, it's a spiritual leader with immense significance for the world, and not just Catholics around the world, but a lot of religious communities.
And you know what, what's his name? Doug Wilson said at the beginning of this that nobody was complaining about the Pope getting involved in politics, but the Pope's position is inherently kind of both, because he controls a country. The Holy See or whatever is a country, or it's the government of a country, I believe. The Vatican is like the building that, I don't know, it's like the Capitol building or whatever in this country. I don't like that church and state are merged, but it's like the remnants of the Holy Roman Empire, and it's been relegated to a tiny little itty-bitty piece of land at this point. I don't like when he gets involved in his, in concordats with smaller countries that need the help, that need the aid. And he's picking sides in a political contest to try to get Catholicism, more leverage. I don't like any of that. I don't know what Wilson is talking about when he pretends that I like that or whatever. Like, what the fuck?
And as such, Donald Trump picking a fight with Pope Leo, like you said, who is the most popular American right now. When all Americans are polled, the number one most popular American is Pope Leo, the first American pope. Donald Trump, in this disastrous war, has attacked the Pope 8 times. On Easter, the holiest day for Christians, which celebrates resurrection and rebirth, what did Donald Trump do? A blasphemous tweet using profane language threatening genocide in this unwinnable war. Then I think he converts to Islam, Piers, to mock Muslims, and he says, praise be to Allah. He follows it up with more genocidal tweets. Then a week later, on Orthodox Easter, what does he do? Mocks the Pope with this blasphemous image, the first commandment, thou shalt not worship any other gods before me. Then he gaslights the world and says, it wasn't me as the Pope or God or Jesus. No, I was just the Red Cross. And everyone's like, please, now you're lying to us. But the Pope, meanwhile...
Yeah, like how many... That's a good point. How many commandments did Trump violate just with that image of Jesus alone, of him as Jesus? That shit is wild. Also, there was something else I wanted to say. I don't remember now.
I was just the Red Cross. And everyone's like, please, now you're lying to us. But the Pope, meanwhile, is doing what the Pope always does. The Pope is preaching the word of God, trying his best to live the life of Jesus. Jesus, who, by the way, healed the sick and the blind, didn't charge copay, who divided fish and loaves, gave it to people, didn't tell them to pull themselves up from the bootstrap. And Donald Trump has picked this fight with the Pope and says he needs to do more to fight crime. It's terrible politics. It's also blasphemous. It is also terrible with his base. You've seen Alex Jones now invoke the 25th Amendment, Candace Owens, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You've seen videos now of MAGA saying, you know what, this is a step too far. It's just unnecessary vulgarity on top of an unpopular war. I want to remind you all, he promised his base no more forever wars. What does he do? Lead us in this unwinnable war. Oil prices are up, gas prices are up, fertilizer prices are up, and
you cannot morally justify, as Doug Wilson, supporting Donald Trump. You cannot morally justify it, period. I don't care what he says he's going to do for you. I don't care if he tells you he's going to give you a Christian nation, I don't care if he says he's going to appoint you to, like, the Pope of the United States. I don't give a fuck. You cannot morally justify supporting Donald Trump. You cannot do it. As a religious figure, you can't.
Now we're in food shortages. He promised to release the Epstein files, is doing a cover-up. He said he'll bring down inflation. Now we're going to get worse inflation. And to top it all off, Piers, he is now attacking, like you said, the most popular not political, but the most popular individual in America, Pope Leo, who is the spiritual leader of 1 billion Catholics. On top of that, he has a war in Iran. He's surrounded by all these cosplay crusaders like Pete Hegseth insulting Muslims. And if I can, to the pastor real quick. Well, Pete Hegseth is not the Pope. Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of Defense in the United States of America. Pete Hegseth should read the Constitution. We have a separation of church and state. Also, Pastor, I know Pete Hegseth...
Oh boy, that's his bread and butter. That is Doug Wilson's bread and butter. He has this whole line about how we don't have a separation of church and state, and how it's not real, and how we should be a fascist dictatorship under Christianity and all this other shit. I know he's licking his lips right now. I know he is. Thank you for the super chat, Patriot of the West. Appreciate that.
Is your star pupil. Pete Hegseth, maybe he should read the Bible and not watch Pulp Fiction.
Right. Doug Wilson is Pete Hegseth's pastor. He moved across the country to D.C. to start a church in D.C. so that he could... Oh, shit. So that he could pastor Pete Hegseth from Washington, D.C. That is crazy, okay? And then Pete Hegseth goes out there and quotes Pulp Fiction as a real Bible verse.
Because Pete Hegseth embarrassed himself and just quoted Samuel L. Jackson from Ezekiel 25:17. So maybe when you get invited to the Pentagon, sit with Pete Hegseth, have him read the Bible and read the Constitution, and maybe he could just tattoo Ezekiel on his arm this time. That's your failure, sir, as his teacher.
Yeah, let me just show you guys this real fast since it's coming up. Hold on. Piers Morgan, Doug Wilson. Let's see. Hegseth. Here. This is the one.
So the prayer is Caesar 25:17, and it reads, and pray with me, please. The path of the downed aviator is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of camaraderie and duty, shepherd the lost through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to capture and destroy my brother. And you will know my call sign.
The point is, he literally quoted a fake Pulp Fiction verse on stage. He probably Googled, what was that metal fucking verse from Pulp Fiction? And it just listed the words from it rather than actually saying this is not a real Bible verse. And he just like wrote it down in his little speech there or whatever the fuck. Or alternatively, maybe someone was trying to embarrass him, his speechwriter, say. And they put it in there to show what a fucking joke of a human being he is. That's a distinct possibility in my mind.
Yeah, nice try.
Well, Pastor Doug, your response
Yeah, nice try.
to that?
Yeah, there are a multitude of things to respond to there. First, to say that the Pope is simply talking about peace and love and all the things that a spiritual leader has to say. The spiritual leader of that many professing Christians needs to do more than wave his hands over a geopolitical mess. And
do you notice what he just did there? He said over that many professing Christians, not over that many Christians, because he doesn't view them as Christians, but over that many professing Christians.
Christians needs to do more than the leader of that many professing Christians needs to do more than wave his hands over a geopolitical mess and speak in bromides and then back it off and say, I wasn't talking about President Trump. In the clip that was shown at the beginning. I'm
sorry, I'm not sure what he's referring to here.
You can't just say boys, boys, as though you have any kind of moral authority to speak to it. Pope John Paul II did oppose the Iraq wars, as did I, right? So that's one thing. But Pope John Paul II was instrumental in the collapse of the Soviet Union. He was no stranger to hardball politics. He knew what he was doing. He
was a piece of shit, honestly. If it's the same Pope I'm thinking of, he was anti-communist to an insane degree and was convinced the left was going to ruin the world and did whatever he could to kind of fuck with politics to prevent the left from taking control in any situation. You remember earlier I said the popes lean toward democracy. Well, John Paul leaned toward democracies with right-wingers in charge to the best of his ability. He was just like, if it's the one I'm thinking of through the 80s, he was just a bad person, honestly.
Thatcher and Reagan had something that they were working on, and so it's a little bit simplistic. Pope John Paul II was not speaking in bromides. Francis was a bromide meister, Pope Leo, the Pope Leo is speaking in all these sweetie nice categories. You can't say, and this is really important, you can't say, you quote Matthew 7 and say that's for me, beware of people who are wolves in sheep's clothing, and then point to the man who is dressed out in sheep's clothing. The one thing we can say about Trump is that he's not a wolf in sheep's clothing. If anything, he's a wolf in wolf's clothing, or quite possibly a sheep in wolf's clothing.
But, okay, see, wait, did he just say that Trump is a sheep in wolf's clothing? Are you fucking kidding me? No, that's the thing. That is the depiction that you imagine I see of him. But that's not the way that you see him. That's not the way countless Christians see him. I was thinking about this the other day. Look at this. Let me find something here. Hang on. 1 second here. All right, here, let me try pulling this up. We all know how the left views Trump more accurately than the right, certainly. But look, he looks like a clown in this, right? Here's another one. Dawn of the World. They call me Don Trump, Venezuela president kidnapped. Like, nobody ridicules the king and he's punching a jester, that kind of thing. Like, he looks like a fool in left-wing comics, right? But look at how the right portrays him. They portray him as strong and attractive and smart. Hang on. Awards. I was looking for one specific comic, but I'm not seeing it. Damn. No, I'm not seeing it. The point is that they view him so completely differently from us. Like, when they look at Donald Trump, they don't see the clown that's in front of them. They see somebody honorable and smart and attractive and intelligent. It's bizarre. Like, I don't think we fully understand how fully brainwashed he is. These people actually do see him as a sheep in sheep's clothing. They do. We are in a bad place, dude, that many people could be suckered into believing all this. Anyway, let's continue.
Clothing. The Pope, who is doing all these, God is in favor of pussy willows and rainbows, that doesn't cut it. The Iranian regime is a murderous regime. There are legitimate objections.
I mean, hang on, Pastor, if I may jump in, let me jump in, because I'm sorry, but it seems to me if you're going to compare the Pope's rhetoric in the last month with Donald Trump's rhetoric, one has been brazenly espousing genocide, talking about the end of civilization in Iran, which would mean the murder of 90 million people, the vast majority
he was
of them
talking about the regime.
Civilians.
No, he was not talking about the regime. He said a whole civilization will die tonight, quote unquote. Those are the words that he used. You can say it was about civilization all you want. I'm sorry. You can say it was about the regime all you want, but it wasn't. And you know that. This dude knows he is full of shit. He knows it. You cannot convince me that he believes what he's saying right now.
Well, good. Well, he wasn't talking about the regime, was he? He said the end of civilization, not the end of the regime. Why do we try and pretend that Donald Trump didn't say what we heard him say?
Oh, look, you don't have to persuade me that Donald Trump's rhetoric can be all over the place.
Well, obviously we do, because you literally just defended it. So
if his tweets there were an art of the unhinged deal. He's dealing with a maniacal regime, and he is negotiating with them in public by means of these tweets. That's not to say that I approve.
Well, that's fucking stupid. What are you talking about? He's negotiating in public through tweets? What? First of all, and second, there are some things that cannot be on the negotiating table, okay? You cannot threaten genocide. You cannot tell them, I'm going to kill every man, woman, and child in your country if you don't do what I tell you to do in the negotiation. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a threat of genocide. They are different. That is not an option. So you can say that the dude was negotiating in public all you want, but we all saw what happened. We were all there, and we all know what this was.
Of everything he says or the way he says it, but I think I see what's going on, and you don't have to accuse him of genocide when he's done nothing of the kind.
Dipshit, no one is accusing him of genocide. We're saying that he's endorsing genocide, that he said he's going to commit a genocide, and he did. He did say that.
No, but he threatened genocide. I mean, for the President of the United States to actually post something on his social media account which threatened the end of civilization in Iran, and then for supporters of the President, I've known him a long time, I get on very well with Donald Trump, but the idea that anyone would try and spin the words the end of civilization to mean specifically the end of a regime of a few 100,000 people, including the IRGC, is for the birds. That's not what he said. Why would you as a pastor go out of your way to try and justify what he said by downgrading it to something we know he didn't say?
Because I'm not defending what he said, I'm defending what he's doing. Why the ceasefire? If he's all about genocidal destruction of Iran, why the ceasefire? Why did he...
You can't use genocide as a negotiating... You can't use genocide as a negotiation tool. You cannot do that. I don't give a fuck who you are or what you believe or whatever. I don't care. That is unacceptable to use genocide as a negotiation tactic. What is wrong with you? Genuinely.
Why did he hold off right before bombing the infrastructure? I look at what he's doing, not what he's saying.
I think the problem, all right, the problem I have with what he's doing is that there's a lot of very confident stuff coming out of Donald Trump at the moment about the war's over, the Iranians have agreed to everything, they're going to give up all their enriched uranium, we've won, we've destroyed them, they're powerless, blah, 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 blah. The trouble is the Iranians didn't get the same memo and don't appear to have agreed to any of this. In fact, they've shut the Strait of Hormuz again. Well, hang on, I'm just telling you what's happened. We can see what's happened. The reality of the situation is nothing like what President Trump has painted. The Strait of Hormuz has been shut again. The Iranians have discovered they can do that at will. They're planning to go after this, charge a toll to people, so they'll make much more money from it than they did before this all started.
Yeah, this is worse than it was before. Okay, Donald Trump ripped up the Iran nuclear deal that was in place that people had worked for 20 years to get. He ripped it up. That was the best deal out there. That's what we wanted. And when he ripped up that deal, it made war inevitable. The only way to get what you want when diplomacy fails is war. Donald Trump is responsible for every part of this. Every single part. Now, he has to get a better deal than the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA, or he's going to look like an idiot. He already looks like an idiot. Is he going to get a better deal? No, absolutely not. That was a fantastic deal. What else could we want?
The regime remains in place. The IRGC remain in control. There is no uprising from the Iranian people. So at the end of this, I am really struggling to see how this lives up to Donald Trump's statements that this war's been won, it's all over, the strait's open, we're getting all the uranium and all these things. None of that appears to be what the Iranians have agreed to.
All the contradictory statements coming out of Iran really just reveal nothing more than the fact that nobody knows who's in charge there.
What contradictory statements is he even referring to? I don't know. There is a power structure in place. I'm sorry you don't like that, but there is. There are people who are calling the shots. And it's the same people every time. I don't know what to tell you here. You're just wrong.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Well, let me bring Tim Miller in. Tim, I mean, there's a lot of contradictory statements coming out of everywhere, and I'm all for the fog of war and dealing with the enemy in a way that they may understand. And look, nobody pretends Donald Trump is a conventional politician or president. He's always used the power of incendiary rhetoric to get what he wants, and sometimes he's been successful at doing it. So, maybe there is method to the madness. Maybe this is the language the Iranians will understand, and maybe in 6 months' time we'll look at this.
Obviously, it's not the language they understand, because he didn't get what he wanted when he threatened genocide. But even if he could have gotten what he wanted, you can't threaten genocide as a negotiation tool. You can't say, I'm going to murder you and your family if you don't blah, blah, blah. That's not how a civilized world operates.
As a piece of strategic genius. But I've got to say right now, I'm not feeling that. I'm feeling more that Donald Trump has got sucked into something. I mean, as we came on air with this show today, he's put out a direct denunciation of the increasingly popular claim that he got bullied into this, or talked into it, persuaded into it by the Israelis. He said, Israel never talked me into the war with Iran. The results of October the 7th, added to my lifelong opinion that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, did. I watch and read the fake news, pundits and polls in disbelief. 90%.
So I'm wondering why he didn't do it in his first term then. Why didn't he do it in his first term? Why now, of all times, when Israel has ramped up their efforts against the Palestinians and everybody in the region? I would love to know.
What they say are lies and made up stories, blah, blah, blah. But, the mere fact he's felt compelled to say that, when we all read a big New York Times piece last week, which detailed in really quite extraordinary detail how Benjamin Netanyahu had sat in the Situation Room at the White House, laying out a sequence of events. If America joined this and attacked and took out the Ayatollah and the top people, then you would see the IRGC get slowly lose power. You'd see the people rise up and take it over. The Strait of Hormuz would be in irrelevance and so on. Only the first bits happened.
That's interesting. Is that verified that he laid out this strategic plan that they expected for the Iranian people to rise up and do something, and the Strait of Hormuz would never close? Like, I'm wondering if he really did lay that out and if that can be verified. Because if so, that would make a lot more sense as to why Donald Trump chose to do this and didn't look forward to figure out what to do about the Strait of Hormuz.
And that's the cold, hard reality. And I'm of the view that Donald Trump has got into something. He wants to get out, but he is not sure how to do that where it doesn't look like an abject failure.
The cold, hard reality is that it's been 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, and things have gotten worse in 6 weeks, Pastor.
It was actually a question for Tim. Sorry,
okay,
Pastor. I will come back to you, Pastor.
Worse for Iran.
I mean, look, we were told it was going to be over. We were told it was going to be over in 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks ago, and it's not. So, Tim.
Yeah, look, the Trump bleat about how Israel didn't push him into this is
bleat, the bleat. I love that. That's pretty funny. Instead of tweet, it's bleat, like a sheep, like sheeple.
Is definitely a lady that doth protest too much moment. The fact that he had to say that, I just think that we can all see reality with our eyes. This is not to say that there's like some secret cabal of Jews that are like, puppet mastering and manipulating Trump. It's not to say that. It's just to say that Bibi came into our Situation Room and made the case to him for this war. And then a couple of weeks later, they got into the war. Like, that's just what happened. I don't think that there's anyone out there who thinks that if Israel did not want this war, wasn't agitating for it, that Trump was going to go at it alone and do it on his own. There's just no reason to think that would have happened. And a big part of why we shouldn't think that would happen is just listening to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance's own words.
So Doug Wilson split off from Joel Webbin. They had previously worked closely together, which is fucking horrifying. They split on the Israel issue. Joel Webbin is a Hitler-loving, Sieg-heiling Nazi, pretty much, for all intents and purposes. Works with Sieg-heiling Nazis regularly, like Stu Peters, certainly. And Doug Wilson is a Zionist, a Christian Zionist. So, yeah.
They said that they weren't going to do this up until they changed their mind. So, look, I just think that, the quote-unquote pastor we've got over here saying that we're only 6 weeks into this, like he's very incoherent in his defense of this. And I think it's probably a big challenge for you, Piers, to get people onto the show to defend this war, because Trump is incoherent talking about it. Any defender of this war sounds incoherent because we haven't got anything. Like, there's been no progress made, and there was no case made for it. And if you just look at, if you go back 7 weeks and you just said to the American people, it's like, hey, here's what things are going to look like in 7 weeks from now. The Strait of Hormuz will have been closed. Energy prices are higher for everybody. Critical energy infrastructure in Arab states are taken offline. The UAE is coming to us to ask us for a loan now. Over a dozen Americans are dead. We've unknown how many Americans are wounded because they're not being honest with us. Iranian citizens have been killed, including school children that we accidentally killed. We've depleted our military materiel. So that is the state of affairs. And in exchange for that, what have we gotten? We've moved from one Khamenei to another. The IRGC is in more control, and Iran has lost some ships, and they've lost some of their missile capabilities. Like, that's it. Like, that's all we've gotten out of this. Who would make that deal? Like, if you made that pitch to people 8 weeks ago, 3% of the American public would have been for that. The really strong Israel hawks maybe would have been for that, but no one else. So they can't make a case for this.
The interesting thing.
Let me bring quote unquote.
Pastor Doug, hang on. Pastor Doug, before you respond, an NBC poll came out yesterday. Over 60% of Americans are against this war. 1 in 4 Republicans are against this war. And there was a majority against it when it first started. But that has got entrenched and the numbers are getting worse. Donald Trump's approval rating is falling to 37% now. And people are fed up about the lack of attention to inflation and the cost of living, which will now inevitably spike up again because of this Iran war scenario. Many on the Republican side feel this is also a betrayal of President Trump's promises not to drag America into these kind of foreign wars, particularly.
Is it really 1 in 4 who are opposed? I mean, 1 in 4 Republicans opposed to the Iran war? Because you can go to this extremist cell of a website, patriots.win, and just look up Iran war. And like every comment on it is opposed to the Iran war practically. We'll just kill more leaders once we know where they're meeting. Like the decoys Iran put out to be bombed, the leaders are visible. Are only decoys. Iran has managed to keep communication strategically ongoing before the ceasefire. For what it's worth, I moved from the U.S. to Abu Dhabi. Got here yesterday for a job, and it's business as usual here. Well, that's war, believe it or not. War is business as usual. You just don't understand what war is like. If in the cities, it's business as usual. The front lines will see extreme, horrifying casualties and things, but the cities that Russia took in Ukraine, they're just operating day to day like they always were. It's just the soldiers come in and fight each other. That's how it should be. Like, people, the individuals should be unaffected by this. Let me look here. Let me find a big post about it. I think they're deleting the Iran war posts. This is like really big news. And the only posts about the Iran war that we have are like 12 upvotes, 5 upvotes. Why? The biggest one is about Tim Walz talking shit about Trump, not about the Iran war. I think they're deleting the posts. Wait, what was that? InfoWars Alex Jones show. Trump says Iran war very close to over as negotiators make progress. Yeah, this isn't. Let me just look at the main posts here. Let's see here. Duplicitous fake news at its finest. What is this? Trump's Iran threats look like self-incrimination for potential war crimes. Trump blinked first by extending the ceasefire. Thanks, Israel. They just fueled the fake news for the next 2 years. Lying sack of commies. That's what they are. No surprises here. May their dreams never come true. God bless America. God bless POTUS. Are you kidding me with this? The sadder part is that people actually do believe this or cheer on Iran and not their own country. Is that Mod? Yes, it's Mod. Liberals one day, Trump is a warmonger, dictator, murderer. Liberals the next day, oh my God, Trump blinked. Taco. I don't understand how those are mutually exclusive. B. Arthur is the most insufferable liberal ever. Okay, I think they're deleting posts here about Iran because there's almost nothing about it. Anyway, all right, let's continue. The point is that I have many posts, many saved stuff and videos that I've uploaded to my channel about this, going through that website, reading all of the anti-war posts. I'm not convinced it's 1 in 4 who are opposed to the Iran war among Republicans.
In the Middle East. So none of it makes coherent sense, as Tim says. But I'm also wondering what I mean, as a Christian in America right now, on the one hand, you've got Donald Trump going to war with one of the most famous Christians in the world and the most popular Christian in America, which is the Pope. But secondly, you've got this imagery coming out now from Lebanon of an IDF soldier literally desecrating an image of Jesus Christ, smashing it to the ground, breaking it. Benjamin Netanyahu, highly unusually, I have to say, for stories of this nature, has not even tried to deny that this is true and has issued a sort of lengthy statement saying how stunned and saddened he was to learn that an IDF soldier damaged a Catholic religious icon.
Yes, I believe they jailed the IDF soldiers who did that for 30 days and sent a new one to Lebanon. Isn't that fascinating? They're okay with literally committing a genocide in Gaza, but step on Christianity and that's a problem.
In southern Lebanon, I condemn the act in the strongest terms and so on, which is the right thing for him to say. But if you're a Christian in America, Pastor Doug, what on earth are you beginning to think? I mean, America is going all in with Israel against Iran, and here you have one of the IDF soldiers, part of the Israeli military, we keep being told, are the most moral army in the world, desecrating an icon of Jesus Christ. What is happening here?
So I'd say 3 quick things, very quickly. Number one is I would join with Netanyahu in condemning that kind of action. That's awful. You shouldn't do it. Bad.
Well, the point is that this is regular practice. This is the type of shit that they do. They don't like other religions. They are xenophobic. They are racist. They're hateful, extremist fucking nutcases in Israel. But Netanyahu recognized that he needs Christian Zionists, so he made a big show out of it.
Just no excuses for it. That's just not good. All right, so I'm with Netanyahu against the IDF soldier who did that thing. Secondly, if this war turns into something that is counted up in months and instead of weeks.
No, we are. I mean, we're in month 3. So, yeah. What are you talking about?
If this goes on like Iraq or like Afghanistan, if it turns into a forever war, I'm against it also. I'm a no forever wars guy. No, all done with endless wars, especially in the Middle East.
Obviously.
I am in that camp, right? So if Trump lands this and brings everything home and everything's better in a short space of time, meaning weeks, if that happens, then okay. If it doesn't happen, then I'm against it too. You can lump me in with some of those people that are objecting to it. I'm there too. Then last thing, I've been a quote unquote pastor for just shy of 50 years. And so I'd like to know how much longer I have to go before I become a real pastor.
He's a real pastor. I don't like this line of attack, really, where they try to portray him as not a real Christian. He's a real Christian, okay? That's just what it is. It's the same with Hitler. He was a Christian, okay? He was a Catholic believer, and he paid his dues to the Catholic Church until the day he died in that bunker. He was a dues-paying Catholic until he died in that bunker. If you're a Christian, if you say you're a Christian, period.
Well, you have to follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, probably, if you want to be a real pastor. I mean, you can call yourself whatever the hell you want, Doug. I'm just going to call you Doug. I'm kind of tired of you being called pastor, but
that's funny.
You know, if you just want
I think we can afford him.
Look, you're out there.
We can afford him.
You hate everybody. You attack black people, gay people, immigrants. Like all you do is spread hate. Your book that you've got behind there is talking about how much you love bad words. If you want to teach like this kind of fake Christianity,
it's not fake Christianity, okay? If they say they're Christian, then they're Christian, period. No one is the arbiter of who is a real Christian.
It's fine. You can do that. If you want. No, I've not read your book. I'm very happy to have not read your book. But if you want to do this kind of vice signaling Christianity, where we're going to do
stop
Christian
commenting
vices,
on what it's about.
Well, I've seen enough of your material on social media that it doesn't really require anymore. I mean, it's not like there's a ton of deep thought that's going behind it that requires further study.
As the show started out, I thought we were supposed to refrain from attacking religious leaders.
Oh, fucking please! What are you talking about?
I have no problem attacking
the Pope. You attacked the Pope.
Well, I have no problem. Listen, real quick, Pastor. I have no problem attacking wolves in sheep's clothing. I have no problem attacking a man who wrote that American slavery was mutually harmonious between the slave master and the slave. That's you. I have no problem attacking.
That's fucking wild, right? What an absolutely wild thing to say. Slavery was mutually harmonious between the slave owner and the slave. Holy shit.
Attacking a man who proudly says he wants to do away with the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. I have no problem attacking a man like yourself who sits here incoherently supporting an incoherent, unwinnable, illegal war in Iran. I have no problem attacking you, a man who's the religious leader of Pete Hegseth, a man who's a cosplay crusader, who's leading some type of crusade, probably you put him on, as a Secretary of Defense, getting Americans and innocent civilians killed. I wish you would be a better Christian. I wish you would open up the Bible. I wish you would meet the Jesus that I met when I went to an all-boys Jesuit Catholic high school. The Jesus that took care of the sick, that took care of the poor, that welcomed the immigrant, that welcomed the marginalized, that helped them. But instead, you've used Jesus as a mascot for, I don't know, your white Christian supremacy, your cruelty, your misogyny. And I'm so glad that people are finally waking up to your cruelty and to the idiocy of your star disciple, Pete Hegseth, who keeps messing up and literally does not read the Bible and quotes Pulp Fiction. Just sit with them. Maybe both of you could read the Constitution, read the Bible, and just take a break, Pastor. Just take a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for the record, he said there a minute ago, Bible versus, or I'm sorry, Jesus supported immigrants. He was in favor of immigrants. Yeah, let me just verify that. This is, here's a short list, an incomplete list of Bible verses that are in favor of immigrants. Leviticus 19:33. When a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. Exodus 22:21. Do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner, for you were foreigners in Egypt. Exodus 23:9. Do not oppress a foreigner. You yourselves know how it feels to be foreigners because you were foreigners in Egypt. Deuteronomy 10:18 and 19. God defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow and loves the foreigners residing among you, giving them food and clothing. And you are to love those who are foreigners. Deuteronomy 27:19. Cursed is anyone who withholds justice from the foreigner, the fatherless, or the widow. That's Old Testament. Let's hit New Testament. Matthew 25:35. Jesus at the final judgment. I was a stranger and you invited me in. Whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. The Greek word for stranger here is xenos, literally foreigner or alien. Hebrews 13:2, do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. Romans 12:13, practice hospitality. Luke 10:25-37, the Good Samaritan parable, where Jesus deliberately makes the hero a despised ethnic outsider. Ephesians 2:19, you are no longer foreigners and strangers, but fellow citizens with God's people. Paul uses the immigrant experience as a metaphor for Gentile inclusion. 1 Peter 4:9, offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. The Bible is clear as day, couldn't be clearer about the fact that we should be treating immigrants well.
Who less?
All right, Pastor, your response.
Just incidentally, we know that Jesus was not a socialist because he could actually feed people.
Okay. No. Jesus passed out bread and food, and socialism didn't exist at the time as a concept. You mean like where the workers own the means of supply and production? Is that what you mean when you say socialist? Socialism wasn't real at that time. What are you fucking talking about? Just dead silence from these guys. I love it.
Wonderful. Great response.
That's what you got. Man, Doug.
To be fair to the pastor, the pastor would have probably got a bit of support from Michael Knowles, but unfortunately, we can't find Michael Knowles, which is why he hasn't joined us.
It's hard to find defenders of the war, Piers. It's tough for you. It's a really tough job. It's supposed to be a debate show, but the war is so stupid that literally the only person who seems to be for it is Mark Levin. And you can't have him on 3 times a week. Life, Liberty, Levin, Micropenis, Mark, but nobody else can offer a coherent case for this war. And so obviously Michael Knowles doesn't want to come on, and you have Doug over here who's already basically saying he's going to be against it if it goes on much longer. So it's challenging because the war is so stupid. That's why it's challenging.
Well, I would say that Michael Knowles. Hang on, Pastor. Michael Knowles doesn't duck debates. I think we've had a breakdown in communication. We'll find out what happened. But it's a shame because I think he would have probably. The pastor does feel a bit on his own at the moment. So I'm sorry about that, Pastor. But I will let you respond. I'm curious though. But I'm curious.
Well, he's just an idiot. He's just a moron. Like he was owned intellectually just now, and. No amount of other people would make his embarrassment any less.
Pastor Doug, and I will call you by your title. You've got a further...
Wow, Piers feels bad about that situation, I guess. He's like really fluffing him over here.
Curious, Pastor Doug, and I will call you by your title. You've got a further complication here where Paula White-Cain, who's a senior personal advisor to the White House Faith Office, said on the Something Greater podcast the following. Take a look at this.
Oh my God, they're talking about Paula White, I mean. Okay, let me give another intro.
Sure. And so obviously.
All right.
Michael Knowles.
All right. This is Doug Wilson. He's Pete Hegseth's pastor, and he is about to embarrass himself gloriously, and they're about to talk about Paula White. Check this out. All right, that's the intro for that section. Now let me continue, or let me give an outro. This is just painfully embarrassing, dude. I feel so bad for this dude, or I would, if he wasn't such a complete sack of shit. All right.
And we'll find out what happened. But it's a shame, because I think he would have probably... the pastor does feel a bit on his own at the moment, so I'm sorry about that, Pastor, but I will let you respond.
No,
I'm curious, though, but I'm curious, Pastor Doug, and I will call you by your title. You've got a further complication here, where Paula White-Cain, who's a senior personal advisor to the White House Faith Office, said on the Something Greater podcast the following. Take a look at this.
Wherever I go, God rules.
Oh, I forgot about this.
When I walk on White House grounds, God walks on White House grounds. I had every right and authority to declare the White House as holy ground because I was standing there, and where I stand is holy.
I totally forgot she said that. I have that clip, I believe. She also said, what was some of the other crazy shit she said? Damn, I suddenly can't remember. There was one specific thing about abortion, satanic abortions or something like that. It was wild, dude. She has problems.
To say no to President Trump would be saying no to God. And I won't do that.
We are in a spiritual war right now. Let every demonic network that has aligned itself against the purpose, against the calling of President Trump, let it be broken, let it be torn down in the name of Jesus.
You want me to tell you what my thoughts are? The thoughts of the King of Kings, the thoughts of the Lord of Lords. I'm downloading heaven.
Wow.
Now, Pastor Doug,
Yeah,
it's
I need to grab that clip, actually. Hold on. Let me just... Where is it? Where does it start? Right here. And I'm gonna grab... Hold on 1 second, sorry. All right, and then... Yeah. Paula White says, wherever she walks, God walks. And then export, start. Awesome. All right, let's continue.
Heaven.
Wow.
Now, Pastor Doug,
Yeah,
it's probably no surprise that Donald Trump is posting images of himself as Jesus when he has one of his own senior faith advisors saying that to say no to President Trump would be saying no to God. I presume you wouldn't agree with that.
I would not agree with that at all, and just point to all the montage you just put together
I don't think he likes Paula White, if I'm not mistaken.
there as a wonderful set of evidences that she was a bad choice for that office.
Okay,
Another
well, fair
agreement.
enough. Tim Miller, how big an issue? Because the other fascinating subtext to all this is what is happening to Trump's former rock-solid MAGA support, particularly in terms of the high-profile people in my world, this world, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, Alex Jones. Over the weekend, Trump called Tucker low IQ.
I call him Cucker Catarlson.
Candace mentally ill, Megyn overrated, Alex Jones totally fried. Here's how Jones replied.
Trump had a 56 approval rating 8 months ago when Doge was roaring and Elon was there and all the rest of it. Now he's got a 33.
Well, he had a high rating because that's what happens to presidents in the earliest days of their administration. People generally give them time to cook. That's usually how it works, but okay.
80% of his support in independents. The Republicans are going to lose the midterms massively coming up in just 7 months. And even Susie Walls has told him that and told the press, this needs to stop. But he doesn't care. He is committing political suicide for our own movement, and he's turning against all the major pillars of the movement.
So, Tim Miller, I mean, it's a very interesting split that is occurring here. I'm slightly baffled by Trump's strategy of just dumping all over all these people. He did the same to Riley Gaines last week when she quite rightly said she didn't like the imagery of Jesus and so on. No Christian should like the President of the United States doing that. But he started lashing out at people who have been very supportive of him historically. What does that tell you about what is going on here? And what does it mean for, say, the midterm elections and the 2028 election?
Yeah, well, I think I can explain what's going on here pretty simply. And that is that Donald Trump has done a series of things as president that have caused backlash among his own voters, and are starting now with the Iran war to negatively impact their lives. I think folks were upset about the Epstein files cover-up, of course. That didn't really affect them personally, but they cared about that issue. And then and when he did it, that kind of started the backlash among the mega base. But now with this war, look, he didn't make the case for this war to anybody, including his own voters. And a lot of people went and voted for him because they were under the impression that he was going to be opposed to this, that he was the candidate that was not going to get us into dumb Middle East wars, because that's what he told them. And so you just have to put your head in, or put yourself in the mind of one of these voters who one day woke up, went to the gas station, and all of a sudden it cost $10 more to fill up their tank. And they're like, why? I can't afford this. I'm going to have to tighten my belt in other places. And like the answer that's being provided is, well, we had to do this war in Iran because we have to degrade the number of ships that they have. It's just like nobody can understand it. It is nonsensical. And so they're starting to get upset. And so, in the past, Donald Trump has been able to bully media members or members of the Republican Party who step out of line because the voters are with him. You just look at any in the past of any of the Republicans who have tried to criticize Trump, and then Trump goes back at them harder, and then they back off. Like, we've seen this a bunch. Why has that worked every time? Well, it's worked because the voters have been with Trump every time. Like, the MAGA base was with Trump in these arguments. The MAGA base isn't with him in the arguments anymore. So the bullying doesn't work, right? If this was a case where, if Trump attacked Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, their ratings went down, who knows? My guess is maybe they would modulate. Maybe they'd start talking about something else. Or if he started going after the Republicans on the Hill who criticized him, and their voters had a backlash against them, then they would back down. We've seen that a million times. That's not happening this time because people are pissed. Because the war is stupid. He didn't make a case for it, and they're being harmed.
I think that there is increasing
Pastor Doug,
distance.
you want to respond?
Yes, I think there is increasing distance between what Trump's doing and the MAGA base. But I think there's an even greater distance and a disconnect between the ostensible leaders of the MAGA base, the Candaces and so on, and the base. In other words, everywhere I go, when I'm talking to conservative Christians...
Well, the point is that these people were diehard supporters. There's a media infrastructure that exists to work for Donald Trump. Yes, people support Trump over Candace and Alex and Tucker Carlson and things. But the point is that this media infrastructure is starting to shrink. If you have 30 people who are very famous and support Donald Trump no matter what, each of those 30 people might be able to reach 200,000 normal people on the street through their broadcasts, through whatever. If those 30 people shrink to 20 people, now you can reach fewer people. Now you can propagandize to fewer. That's the point here. Donald Trump's support is shrinking among the media influencers, and the fewer media influencers there are, the fewer regular people there are out there. People die every day of old age, and people get involved in politics every day from a young age. It's a constant moving cycle. And Donald Trump is losing support in that treadmill that exists.
On the ground, they are far more concerned about how Candace lost the bubble than how Trump has. So the sorts of things that you could turn the sound all the way off watching Candace and tell that she's lying. It's just really, really bad. And the fact that there's a disconnect between Candace and the MAGA base, and I think Tucker has gone in much more of a different direction than the MAGA base was. And I believe the same thing is true of Megyn Kelly in her backing of Candace and all the outrageous things that they're saying about Erica Kirk and Turning Point USA. Turning Point is still representative of the MAGA base, the rank and file. And the people who have the big podcasts are not representing that base. So yes, there is a fracture between Trump and the podcast voices. Yes, that is very true. But I don't think the disconnect or the tension is nearly as great between Trump and, let's say, your average Turning Point attendee.
No, I think that's a very probably that's probably
Piers,
right.
did
But
you see that
Vijay,
Turning Point
respond to
conference?
that finally.
Sure.
Say again?
If you saw that Turning Point conference with baby Catholic J.D. Vance, it was sparsely populated. And in that Turning Point conference, filled with a lot of young Republicans, they trolled him specifically over the genocide in Israel and also over this war, because this war is unwinnable. The fact that they're fighting, I want to quote Ken Watanabe's character from Godzilla, let them fight. You're seeing a splintering, a fracturing, a big fracturing. Candace Owens has a big chunk of the conservative audience. So does Tucker. So does Alex Jones. So does Marjorie Taylor Greene. So does Massey. This is now coming together.
Yeah, and up to now, it's been completely unified. Not one person would break from Donald Trump. Not one. And the fact that people are breaking shows that it's okay to break. It's okay to separate your positions from Donald Trump and recognize when he's not doing what he should, basically. This is how dictatorships fall, by the way. When people split off and show others that it's possible to do. Or when people on the inside stop following instructions. This is how they fall. There's a whole area of study called transitional justice where this happens. And you know what? I want to write about transitional justice in my new book. So let me just make note of that before I forget. Transitional justice. To outline. Give me a second here to just... I'm sorry, 1 second. Before I forget my outlines. Here we are. Okay.
In a way that they're creating an America First movement away from Donald Trump. Nick Fuentes said that MAGA is dead. On top of that, Donald Trump has never gone more than 50%. He's only gone 49%. He can't afford to lose them. So he's losing not just most people. He's lost Latino voters who voted for him. He's lost independents. He's in the 20s with independents. He's lost young voters. He's never had the majority. And now he's losing the MAGA base. And why? He has betrayed his own base. He made the promise.
Look at you guys.
No forever wars.
Look at you guys.
Iran war. He said he'll release the Epstein files. He's all over the Epstein files. He has not reduced grocery prices because of this stupid, unwinnable war. Oil prices have gone up. Gas prices have gone up. Grocery prices have gone up. And now, Piers, you're seeing, especially in Asia and Pacific, shortages. Fuel shortages, gas shortages, food shortages, prices for
I appreciate that this guy is not letting this shithead get a word in edgewise.
Flights are going to go.
He does not deserve the attention. He doesn't deserve to be on here. He should be on here probably because he's Pete Hegseth's fucking pastor, but he doesn't deserve it. And I hope they make him look like the fool that he is, honestly.
Go up. Helium shortages, MRIs, data chips, and we're going to face it in America. And just the energy secretary came out today, Trump administration, and said we're going to have high gas prices leading up to 2027. People voted for him because they believed his promise he would reduce prices. He is failing across the board, and he doesn't look well. And now he's picked a fight with the Pope, the most popular figure in America right now, and the religious leader of over 1 billion people. And this war, Piers, you know this and I know this. There's a reason why no Democrat or Republican president in the past 47 years got dog-walked into this war by Benjamin Netanyahu. Because even they knew, even George W. Bush knew, a war in Iran would be disastrous. It would be a quagmire. We're about 8 weeks in. He cannot get out, Piers. He is stuck. But his ego makes him double down on this failed war. Everything's getting worse. His base is finally fed up.
I just like how
Pastor
you guys
Doug,
are
final
now,
word to you.
Sure. I just like how you guys are now appealing to authorities like Fuentes and Candace and Alex Jones.
What do you mean appealing to authorities? No one is calling them an authority. What the fuck does he even mean by that? I don't understand.
Never
Well, the war
thought
is so stupid that me and Candace finally agree on something. I mean, you're correct. She is a big liar. I don't think that the First Lady of France has a dick, but we do agree that the war is that dumb. Yeah, that's we're on the same page on that one thing.
70% of Americans.
There's certainly an interesting fusion of people that I would never have thought would ever agree about anything going on. Guys, thank you all very much indeed. I'm sorry that Michael didn't join us. That was, I think, some kind of communication breakdown, but we'll get him back next time. Thank you all very much.
Okay.
See you, Piers.
Thank you.
Wow, is that the end of his segment? That was shorter than I thought it was. Yeah, tell me what you think about it in the comments. These people are just bottom of the barrel fucking evil, dude. Apparently there's more psychotic shit, though, in this. I don't know who this is, but let's find out, shall we? Hold on. Apparently, wait. Yeah, apparently this dude says some psychotic shit. We'll have to bomb Iran. All Iranian churches and all Iranian synagogues are well protected by the people of Iran. The Iranians that are the good guys. Okay, let's listen for a second.
Fake. The Iranians agreed to nothing. And he just puts out information on Truth Social. And later on, he's possibly going to say that the Iranians promised everything and now they're not doing it. And so we'll have to bomb Iran. And then people like yourself and others in the Western media will continue to demonize Iran and to attack anyone who defends Iran. And
I think this person is is anti-war. Interesting. All right, let me read my scripts. Let's see, where did I put those puppies? Here we are. Okay. So it looks like people say they want to hear about the Nazified Christian movement. I don't think that I finished this one. Let me just see. Maybe I did? No, I didn't finish this one. I thought I did, but so all right, let's go with the next most popular, which is the Jehovah's Witness history of blood transfusions. On March 20th of this year, the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses posted a 16-minute video on their website. All right, let me rephrase that. On March 20th, 2026, the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses posted a 16-minute video on their website. A man named Garrett Loesch sat in front of a camera and in the most clinical tone you can imagine, dismantled one of the biggest pieces of the blood transfusion doctrine. The doctrine that's been killing people for 80 years. He didn't call it a reversal. He didn't apologize. He called it a clarification. And the language he used, the quote he picked, the stuff he quietly walked past, that's what I want to talk about today. Let's get into it. For people who don't know the background, Jehovah's Witnesses have a policy against blood transfusions. If you accept one, you get kicked out of the religion. You get shunned. Your family stops talking to you. Your friends stop talking to you. You're dead to them. That's been the rule since 1961. They've added a bunch of exceptions over the past 75 years. Certain blood fractions became a conscience matter, as they call it. Cell salvage during surgery, hemodilution, Factor 8 for hemophiliacs. They used to get you kicked out, and one by one, they got reclassified. But there was one thing they held the line on. Preoperative autologous blood donation. Sounds complicated, but it just means this. All right. At its most basic, it means this. Your doctor takes some of your own blood a few weeks before a big surgery, stores it in a bag, sorry, stores it in a bag and puts it back in you during the operation. Your blood, not anyone else's, yours, stored and returned. That was banned. And if you did it, you got shunned. As of March 20th, it's a conscience matter. In Jehovah's Witness language, that means you can... no, I don't need that. That's unnecessary. As of March 20th, it's a conscience matter. And the actual quote Loesch used to justify this is where it gets interesting. I think I have this clip, so I'll insert it here. The Bible does not comment. That's the whole argument. The Bible doesn't talk about it, so you're free to decide. Except the Bible also doesn't comment on blood transfusions from other people, because blood transfusions didn't exist when the Bible was written. Nobody was doing IV therapy in 30 AD. So by his own logic, regular transfusion should also be fine. They opened a door they've been refusing to open for 75 years, and he has to know that. Here's where their logic gets fascinating. Loesch cited the October 2000 Watchtower as the source for this new rule. Said it was just a clarification of what they've always taught, except the exact article explicitly bans the thing they just approved. This is from the same article. Quote, occasionally a doctor will urge a patient to deposit his own blood weeks before the surgery, and collecting, storing, and transfusing of blood directly contradicts what is said in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Blood is not to be stored, it is to be poured out. Blood is not to be stored, it's to be poured out. From the article he cited. In March 2026, he told members this is allowed. In October 2000, the source he pointed to said the source he pointed to directly God damn it. This is worded confusingly, sorry. Hang on, let me just... The source he pointed to said it directly, yeah. In October 2000, the source he pointed to said it directly contradicts Scripture. Both of those cannot be true. That's the whole game. I asked my mom what she thought, an active Jehovah's Witness. She said nothing changed. They just reaffirmed what they've always said. I reminded her of the time my dad needed open heart surgery and nobody would perform it for him, and pointed out that this would change that. She said, doesn't seem different to me. The rule is new, but the strategy isn't. Jehovah's Witnesses have been moving the goalposts on different expectations and rules since day one, and the pattern is always the same. Strict rule, people die, quiet reversal, no apology, move on. And actually, let me just zoom in on this so I can see it more clearly. There we are. Here's the timeline. Before 1945, the Watchtower Society praised blood donation. One of the magazines from 1940 tells the story of a woman whose life was saved by an emergency transfusion from her doctor. Written approvingly, like good for everyone involved. In 1945, they declared blood transfusions a sin. Just decided it one day. In 1961, they made it a disfellowshipping offense. Take a transfusion and you lose everything and everybody you've ever loved. In 1964, they extended the rule to pets, believe it or not. You couldn't give your dog a transfusion. Couldn't use blood-based fertilizer in your garden. Couldn't feed your animals certain kinds of dog food. I'm not making this up. There was a whole letter-writing campaign to pet food companies to verify that their pet food was blood-free. Pets! Cats aren't cats obligate carnivores? Do they think cats don't eat blood do they think cats don't eat blood fractions, or blood products in the wild? This is active doctrine, by the way. As an ex-Jehovah's Witness, I can tell you that if they didn't retract it, it is active doctrine. They have a board who reviews old writings and revises positions. They probably realized how ridiculous the ask was, so the campaign is over. But if push came to shove, they would absolutely disfellowship somebody for this. Just like they disfellowship somebody for refusing to use a New World Translation of the Bible. Are you allowed to use the King James? Absolutely. Do they like it? Absolutely not. They wouldn't disfellowship you for using the wrong Bible. It would probably be something like not respecting Jehovah's loving arrangement. Anyway, in that same... I'm sorry, let me say it again. Anyway, in that same 1961 Watchtower that made refusing transfusions a disfellowshipping offense, their official published teaching at the time, quote, "The poisons that produce the impulse to commit suicide, murder, or steal are in the blood." They said blood makes you commit murder. That was their medical claim. The same organization that printed that sentence is the one whose rule book you're supposed to trust with your life. Hang on, my chair's beeping. 1 second. Goddamn beeping chair. Okay. Through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they started cracking the door. Hemophiliacs got factor 8. Hemodilution was allowed. Cell salvage during surgery was allowed. All of these used to get members kicked out. One by one, quietly reclassified. It might seem like a small thing, but remember, they're overseeing 9 million people. Out of 9 million Jehovah's Witnesses, how many deal with these types of conditions? Not zero. Probably around 100,000 each year, if we apply the ratio from the United States. About 1.3% need a blood transfusion each year in the U.S. Each year in the U.S. 1.3% of over 9 million is about 115,000. These are people who can't follow rules or they die. Car accidents are commonly cited because those are more frequent than hemophiliac cases, but when you're working on a grand scale like this, the small statistics add up. Then in June 2000, they made a massive change. They split blood into primary components and fractions and declared that fractions are a conscience matter, which is the paradox ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have been talking about for 25 years. A witness can now accept blood fractions that, if you add them all together, equal the contents of whole blood. The material is identical, but give them whole blood directly in one bag and it's a sin. Give it to them in separate bags and it's fine. That's the kind of theological garbage that only makes sense if you're engineering the doctrine backwards from the conclusion. It doesn't start with the Bible and land at a rule. It starts at a rule and backfills the Bible. Let me write one more thing. Hold on. Hang on. Contradicts their perspective. Okay. And for that matter, the Bible verse they mistakenly used to justify the doctrine basically says you have to bleed an animal before eating it. Pour it on the ground. Is using blood fractions pouring it on the ground? The verse doesn't apply to blood transfusions at all, obviously, but the fraction bit directly contradicts their perspective. And now 2026 knocks another wall down. The autologous storage ban is gone. There's not much left standing. I'm glad they're moving in the right direction, but why don't they just reform the whole system? Why not tell people they're allowed to get transfusions? What is the material difference between getting blood fractions and getting the whole thing? The difference is their pride. Hang on. Okay. This isn't an unprecedented shift, though. They've done this exact thing before. In 1967, the Watchtower Society declared organ transplants to be cannibalism. The actual language, quote, did this include Did this include eating human flesh? No, that would be cannibalism, a practice abhorrent to all civilized people. Those who submit to such operations are thus living off the flesh of another human. That is cannibalistic." End quote. Watchtower, November 15th, 1967, pages 702 to 704. Cannibalism. That was the word. Kidney transplant, heart transplant, cornea transplant. You were a cannibal. That was the official teaching. For 13 years, that's what witnesses were told. Kids died. Adults died. There's a case of a 13-year-old girl named Lori Mason in Massachusetts, 1978. She had aplastic anemia. Her sister could have given her bone marrow. The family refused because of the cannibalism rule. She died. 2 years later, the rule flipped. In March 1980, the Watchtower Society reversed it. They hid it in a questions from readers column buried in the magazine. Transplants are now a matter for Transplants are now a matter for conscientious decision. No apology or acknowledgement. Let me say it again. No apology or acknowledgement. When they updated their publication index, the 1967 article that called transplants cannibalism was not listed under transplants. They scrubbed it from the index. They didn't pretend it didn't happen. They just made it harder for their own members to find. How many witnesses died refusing transplants between 1967 and 1980? We don't know. The Watchtower Society never released a number. There's no academic study. It's a 13-year window of preventable deaths the organization never publicly accounted for. That's the pattern. And that's what they just did again with autologous blood storage in 2026. Believe it or not, that's not even the worst part. In 1994, Jehovah's Witnesses published an Awake magazine with a cover story titled "Youths Who Put God First." On the cover, 26 photos. 26 Jehovah's Witness kids, all dead. Every single one died refusing a blood transfusion. The article opens on page 2 with this, quote, "In former times, thousands of youths died for putting God first. They're still doing it, only today the drama is played out in hospitals and courtrooms, with blood transfusions the issue." End quote. No, not end quote. There's more. Thousands of youths died for putting God first. No, yeah, that was the end of the quote. This is me speaking again. Thousands of youths died for putting God first. They are still doing it. That is the Watchtower in their own magazine celebrating the deaths of their own children as martyrs, comparing a 12-year-old bleeding out in a pediatric ward to early Christians being executed under Roman emperors. One of them was Lisa Kosak, age 12. The article quotes her directly, saying she would, quote, "fight and kick the IV pole down and rip out the IV, no matter how much it would hurt, and poke holes in the blood," end quote. A 12-year-old describing how she would physically attack the equipment trying to save her life. And her church published it, not as a warning or regret, as celebration. That same 1994 issue cites a Watchtower article from June 1991, page 15. That article told Jehovah's Witness parents this is exact phrasing, to, quote, "hold practice sessions in which each youth faces questions that might be posed by a judge or a hospital official," end quote. Practice sessions. So when a doctor or a judge was standing over a dying child asking if they wanted to live, the kid could give a rehearsed answer. That is coaching children for their own deaths. There's no other way to describe it. Don't get me started on the Hospital Liaison Committee, the committee of elders who go from hospital to hospital, visiting Jehovah's Witnesses in life-threatening conditions to make sure their interests are represented, quote-unquote. I'm sure we know whose interests they're talking about. They've never retracted that cover or apologized for it, by the way. As recent as 2016, the governing body member Tony Morris told a story at a convention about a young witness who died refusing blood. The audience applauded. That's the culture this doctrine built. It didn't stop in 1994. Let me write one more thing. Tower Society. Written about it. Remember watching it myself when it came out. Unfortunately, the Watchtower Society sued to have the video taken down. There are articles written about it, and I remember watching it myself when it came out in 2016, but it's gone now. I should probably include the article on that. Maybe I'll insert it later. Now let's talk about the actual body count. The part news coverage tends to skip. Nobody has a perfect number. The Watchtower Society doesn't publish one for obvious reasons, but the best estimate comes from AJWRB, Associated Jehovah's Witnesses for Reform on Blood, a group of mostly current and former witnesses who want the doctrine changed. Their number is about 33,000 preventable deaths from 1961 to 2016. It's an extrapolation from peer-reviewed surgical mortality data, not a direct body count, but it's the best number anybody has, and the real number isn't lower than that. The cleanest data is on pregnant women. A 2022 review in the International Journal of Obstetric Anesthesia pooled data from the UK, US, Netherlands, and Japan, and found that Jehovah's Witness women who refuse blood during childbirth die at 44 to 160 times the rate of the general population. Not 44 to 160% higher, 44 to 160 times higher. If you're a witness woman giving birth, the most dangerous thing in the delivery room is the rule your own church placed on you. This has been in the courts for decades. There's a U.S. Supreme Court case from 1944, Prince versus Massachusetts. Justice Rutledge wrote a line that basically every court since has cited. Quote, Parents may be free to become martyrs themselves, but it does not follow they are free, in identical circumstances, to make martyrs of their children, end quote. A Supreme Court justice, 82 years ago, said exactly what I would say. You can die for your beliefs. You cannot decide your child dies for yours. Even dying for your own beliefs is a little iffy. Imagine your religion demands human sacrifice, as this one does. But imagine it's a more intense version of human sacrifice. Imagine the expectation is that once a month, somebody from the congregation is taken to a mountaintop, chained to a table, and stabbed to death. It doesn't really matter if the person doing it is doing it voluntarily, or even if it's their own hand doing the stabbing. You can't do that. And you certainly can't do it to a 12-year-old. If this is framed in any other situation, people would see it for what it is. Case after case. Dennis Lindbergh, 14, Washington State, 2007. The judge let him refuse. The kid said he was giving himself a death sentence. He died that day. Bethany Hughes, 17, Alberta, 2002. Courts forced transfusions, but her father was shunned and divorced by her mother for supporting the treatment. Real kids, real families torn apart, not abstractions. But here's a bigger question. How do you get people to do this? How do you convince a mother to watch her daughter bleed out? Same answer as every high control group. Scientologists do it with disconnection. The FLDS does it with expulsion. Jehovah's Witnesses do it with disfellowshipping. You build a system where the cost of leaving is higher than the cost of watching your child die. That's what shunning does. Your family cuts you off. Your friends cut you off. Your whole social world vanishes in an afternoon. Break the rule on blood, and that's what happens to you. They can't legally throw you in a jail cell for breaking the rules, so they lock other people in willingly and lock you out. As I mentioned earlier, there's a hospital liaison committee. Teams of Watchtower Society approved elders who show up at the hospital bed to make sure the patient doesn't change their mind. They're not there to support you. If you waver, they document it, so when you recover, they can assemble a judicial committee and kick you out. And an anonymous HLC whistleblower wrote on AJWRB that they personally saw about 4 witnesses die who could have been saved but didn't know the specific blood products the society had already approved. They died of confusion because the rule book they were handed was deliberately unclear. And you might have to go back 50 years in the literature to actually know the doctrine. When the rule changes, like it did in March, they have a built-in escape hatch called New Light. They cite a verse in Proverbs about light getting brighter and say God is slowly revealing more truth over time. Sounds humble, sounds noble. But what it actually means is they never have to apologize or reckon with the people who died under the old rule. They never have to admit they were wrong. The old light quietly turns off. The new light comes on. You keep marching. One former Jehovah's Witness put it better than I could. New lights have a habit of growing dimmer while old ones get switched back on. Because they've reversed their position on organ transplants, vaccines, serums, hemophilia treatment, and now autologous blood. The arrow only points one way for now. The biggest problem with New Light is that the light isn't getting brighter. The light is a completely different color now. They jumped from allowing organ transplants to banning them, to allowing, they jumped from allowing organ transplants to banning them to allowing them again. It isn't like walking into a dark room and turning on a flashlight. It's like going inside to find that you're outside again. It's nonsense. It's not how the world works. All right, I'm almost done. This is the last section. So what does a March 2026 change actually mean? Not much. This is being covered in the news like it's a dramatic softening. AP ran a story. Religion News Service picked it up. Boston Globe covered it. The framing is always Jehovah's Witnesses Jehovah's Witnesses ease policy on transfusions. But theologically, this is minor. Another fraction-sized carve-out in a doctrine that's been collapsing piece by piece since 2000. Most of what used to be banned is already a matter of conscience. Autologous storage was one of the last holdouts. It fell. What it actually proves is the doctrine was never about the Bible. It was about organizational unity. A line drawn so leadership could tell who was in and who was out. And when that line became legally inconvenient, when it cost them their registration in Bulgaria in the 90s, then Norwegian courts started stripping their subsidies, then they started losing educated second-generation members, they moved the line. The line moves. The line moves. The Bible doesn't. Here's what I want to end on. The 26 kids on that 1994 Awake cover are still dead. The 13-year-old in Massachusetts who needed her sister's bone marrow is still dead. She'd be about my brother's age. Maybe even an ex-Jehovah's Witness YouTuber. The mothers who bled out during childbirth are still dead. And the organization whose magazine in October 2000 said blood transfusions directly contradict what is said in Leviticus and Deuteronomy is now telling you in March 2026 that the Bible does not comment on the use of your own blood. Both of those statements cannot be true. They're both from the Watchtower Society. One of them is wrong. And the people who died under the wrong one are never getting an apology. Anyway, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for watching, guys. Awesome. All right, that's the episode. There's another one that I want to hit. Not at this immediate moment, but maybe later today in a few minutes, when Jehovah's Witnesses wrote to Hitler. This is probably my favorite. I'm pretty excited about reading that one. Some of the hardest shit I've heard for a bit. Thank you. I appreciate it. Wait till you get to the Jehovah's Witnesses writing to Hitler one. That one is hard. That one hits really hard. And I'm pretty excited to hit it. But for the moment, let my voice recover. Let's watch something for a couple of minutes. I'm going to make some food real fast while we watch. And then when I come back, we may do that one, or I may cover something else. Hang on.
I don't think I've washed my hands for 10 years.
Oh, dude, I forgot about this. This is Pete Hegseth. This is Pete Hegseth saying he hasn't washed his hands for 10 years. No joke.
I don't think I've washed my hands for 10 years. Really, I don't really wash my hands ever.
Help me.
No, I inoculate myself. It's just not, germs are not a real thing. I can't see them. Therefore, they're not real.
So you're becoming immune to all of the
exactly.
bacteria.
I can't get sick.
No, he does. No, you misunderstood, lady. He doesn't think he's immune to the bacteria. He doesn't believe bacteria are real, is the point. Let's see here.
State of Indiana versus Michael Allegretti, 64 D01.
Your religion is not.
Hey, I want to challenge your thinking.
I have some stuff on the stream here. What's this?
The truth is people can see.
Then last thing.
Wait. Let's check what Alex Jones is up to at this immediate moment. Full. We could watch Nick Fuentes too. That's a choice. Let's see here. Here. This seems interesting, right?
Thursday, he said.
Actually, before we watch it, let me pull it and make sure he doesn't use any slurs. Because I don't want slurs playing like while I'm away from my desk, you know? Fuentes is a bit of a risky character to play while I grab food. I'm going to make some eggs. Welcome, Coot Master. I'm just checking my thing here. I'm sorry, 1 second. It's downloading. Never shake hands with Pete. Yes, seriously. He literally doesn't believe in germ theory of disease and never, ever washes his hands. That's who the dude is. No joke. All right. It's almost done downloading. Give it a second. It's done. It did not process though. I didn't run the analysis on it apparently, which means that I cannot see if it has. It's okay. I can transcribe it real fast and just search for slurs. It's almost done transcribing now. Transcription is usually pretty quick. Is there a transcript in here anywhere? No, I'm not seeing it. Well, heckers. It's only a 35-minute video, damn. All right, let me open it here.
A little.
All right, good. It's hanging on the transcript. There it is. Now it's moving. 65%, 77, 80, 84, 89, 93, 97. There it is. Okay. Let's check the transcript and see if he uses any slurs. Yeah, he does. He does, and he uses them early too. Okay, yeah. I'm just checking the other slurs. Okay. So he uses this one slur, it looks like, at 4 minutes. So let me jump to 5 minutes.
Bankrupt Alex Jones, who says some of the dumbest things.
Okay, I'm going to let this play for a second while I go make food real fast. Should only take me like 15 minutes, okay? I'll be right back. We may actually watch this episode when I get back, too, because it's interesting. But I do want to cover the Jehovah's Witnesses letter to Hitler thing, because that one is hard, too.
Lost his entire fortune, as he should have, for his horrendous attack on the families of the Sandy Hook shooting victims, ridiculously claiming it was a hoax. These so-called pundits are losers, and they always will be. Now, fake news CNN, the failing New York Times, and all of the other radical left news organizations are hailing them and giving them positive press for the first time in their lives. They are not MAGA. They are losers, just trying to latch on to MAGA. As president, I could get them on my side anytime I want to, but when they call, I don't return their calls because I'm too busy on world and country affairs. And after a few times, they go nasty, just like Marjorie Trader Brown. But I no longer care about that stuff. I only care about doing right for our country. MAGA is about winning and strength and not allowing Iran to have nuclear weapons. MAGA is about making America great again, and these people have no idea how to do that. But I do, because the U.S. is the hottest country in the world. And that is the 500-word message, the literally 500-word Truth Social post from our fearless president of the United States, Donald Trump. And I suppose it speaks for itself. So he really hates these people. And what really is there to say about it that hasn't already been said? He has betrayed MAGA. This movement started in opposition to war. Now it is responsible for the wars. The movement radicalized the masses, now is de-radicalizing them. All of these people supported Trump and sacrificed for the benefit of America first in this movement. Now they've all been devoured by it. They've all been backstabbed and betrayed and thrown under the bus by it. And now they get, instead of rewarded and instead of gaining any type of influence, they get publicly humiliated and attacked. And listen, I have a complicated relationship with some of these people. Megyn Kelly hates me for some reason. Tucker hates me for some reason. Candace Owens hates me for some reason. Alex Jones I like. But there is a lesson in this, which is that each and every one of these people, like I said, they have supported Trump for 10 years. Each and every one of these people, as far as I know, they voted for Trump 3 times. They campaigned for him in 2024. Some of them spoke at the convention. You know it, I know it, and we've all seen it. How many shows has Alex Jones gone to the mat for Trump? In spite of what he knew, in spite of his reservations, in spite of his concerns, how many shows and how much flack did he get? And I say this because I'm most aware of Alex Jones' body of work. How much has Alex defended Trump, fought for Trump, went to stop the steal, supported him in 2016, said it was imperative to support him in 2024, defended him from the witch hunt, from the Russia investigation. And by the way, even when it was hard, even when it was difficult, when he was destroyed by the left and lost everything, and Trump was no help, Trump did not give Alex Jones a pardon preemptively when he could have after January 6th. Trump did not try to assist him in getting censored off of the internet in his first term, and Trump has done nothing in the second term to help Alex Jones in this ridiculous lawsuit and ongoing witch hunt in other matters from the DOJ and from the left. And this is how Alex is rewarded. Think of that. This is how he is rewarded. Trump doesn't help him. Trump doesn't do anything for him, and Alex has no influence. Instead, Trump is going to throw him under the bus literally the second that Alex expresses disagreement with Trump over a policy, which, by the way, Trump himself campaigned against. What does it tell you? This is the same thing that I have been saying from the beginning. From the beginning of this show, since the 2024 election, about Trump, and it is this: take your own side. Why are people loyal to Trump? Why would you be loyal to Trump? Do you not see who this person is? Trump is not a loyal person. He isn't, and never has been, ever. Hello? When will people wake up and realize this is not a loyal person? Trump is a treacherous person and always has been. Look at all of Trump's closest allies over the past 10 years. People like Jeff Sessions, people like Ann Coulter, people in the Trump organization. How many people have gotten involved with Trump? They were the first to endorse him, like Sessions, like Ann Coulter. How many people got sued, like Bannon, like Mike Flynn, like his campaign manager, whose name I forget right now? How many of these people got involved with Trump, lost everything, sacrificed everything on his behalf, were destroyed, only to be discarded, only to be backstabbed, thrown under the bus? It happens over and over again. And this is just what you come to expect with Trump. It's the scorpion and the frog. You can't take it personally. You can't hold it against him. It's in his nature. It's what he does. He stings these people. And you don't have to be mad about it, and you don't have to moralize about it, but you recognize this is a person in politics. He is not our friend. He is not the savior of Western civilization. He's not God. He's not your boss. He's not your dad. He's a politician. He's a billionaire. He is a billionaire. He is a politician. And this extraordinary movement that he has built, historic as it is, and maybe at one point had noble intentions, always was there to enrich and benefit him. That was always the program. And we thought we would get something out of it. This movement obviously edified the president to an extraordinary degree. Trump was in this arguably from the beginning for his own legacy, for his own aggrandizement. What was the purpose of the MAGA movement? Trump wanted another jewel in his crown. He wanted another feather in his cap. It wasn't enough to be a billionaire. It wasn't enough to put his name on a skyscraper or 10 of them. It wasn't enough to have the biggest game show on NBC and be a celebrity and the rest of it. He wanted to leave his mark on history. He wanted to be like those people in the history documentaries he watches. He wanted to be the leader. And we thought that if we conferred those benefits on him, if we made him our king, then we would get something out of it too, that there was this coincidence of wants. We will appoint you the tyrant. We will appoint you the leader. And it can be all about you, and it can be your name, and you can put your stamp on it. As long as it is a populist uprising and empowered by the people, you would deliver some of those benefits to the people. But we saw what happened in the first term. Didn't happen. Trump betrayed all of his own people. The people from his campaign didn't get jobs in the admin. The people that stormed the Capitol for him did not get pardons. They went to jail. The people that fought the hardest for him, fought the Russia gate and fought in the cabinet and wore their MAGA hats and endorsed him, one by one, they were all discarded, humiliated, mocked, betrayed. There's no excuse. After Trump did not pardon the J6ers, you should have knew what kind of guy he was. He didn't put Clinton in jail. He didn't build the wall. He didn't make allies with Russia. He didn't put Israel in its place. He did none of the things he promised. He didn't help any of the people that voted for him or any of the people that fought for him. As a matter of fact, in many ways, he only hurt them. And this is why in 2024, I said, loyalty to Trump, I don't owe Trump anything. What more do I owe Trump? What more does anybody owe this person? We voted for him twice. And many of us were there for Stop the Steal. And many of us were holding down the fort on the internet, fighting the meme war. And we were spreading the gospel of Trump and wearing the hat and doing all these things. And we all paid a price in our own way, whether you were ostracized, disinvited from a Thanksgiving dinner, fired from your job, expelled from school, punched in the face, banned on Twitter, put in jail, died. Some people died. We all suffered in our own way. And what were we rewarded with in the end? A vaccine, BLM riots, a jail sentence after J6. Nobody got their Twitter accounts back. There was no tech, Bill of Rights or anything like that. We got nothing. And so in 2024, this was the only group of people, the Groypers and me included, that said, hey, let's snap out of it. Let's adjust to the information that we've gotten. And let's just realize we have to put America first, not Trump, not the GOP, not whatever. We have to put Americans, us. We have to put the country first. Trump won't do that. He can't do it, so we don't need him. But we were convinced by all of these people, Tucker, Megan, Candace. I'm not going to say Alex because I like Alex, but he campaigned for Trump too. All these people told us, no, we need to vote for Trump. We got to do it one last time. Some people even went further and they say...
Did he say any slurs? I hope not. I finished making my eggs. How long did that take? Started at 5 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes. Not bad. Awesome. Okay. Let's see. We're going to start at the beginning, actually, with this. And when I finish eating, then I'll read the other one. It is hot as the dickens in here. Siri, what's the temperature outside? I'm trying to find out what the temperature is. Siri is fucking useless. Let me just check. It's oh, it's 60 out. Damn. Okay. All right. Nick Fuentes is about to address the fact that people are turning on Donald Trump and Trump's reaction to like Alex Jones basically saying, I'm done with Trump and I apologize for ever supporting him and all of that. Let's give this a listen and see what he has to say. All right.
You know what? I had an article clipped about it, but I think I'm just going to read it because it deserves to be read in its entirety, even though it's literally 500 words. So I'm going to pull it up for you. And our first, before we get into the actual ceasefire, let's do the fun stuff. Let's do a silly one first. So our first story is about this unbelievable Truth Social post from President Trump. I'll read the article to you first about it. This is from the Wall Street Journal. It says, quote, President Trump called Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones, four conservative, once allies of Trump who have been critical of his approach to the war in Iran, losers and stupid people in a nearly 500-word Truth Social post on Thursday. He said they sought publicity and would say anything necessary to get it.
I like the word bleat. I think the word bleat fits these. They're bleats from Trump.
And this is the post. I'll read it to you. This is good stuff, guys. Why do I like it? See, that's how you know I'm evil. That's how you know I might be a little bit evil.
I think we all knew that.
And maybe I just live for the drama a little bit. Maybe I just like to see something happen sometimes. But today, Trump jumps on Truth Social and he just tears Alex Jones, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Tucker, and Marjorie Greene a fucking new asshole. in this 500-word devastating truth nuke,
bleat,
orbital strike, rods of God, bomb of a post. And I don't know why I like it, because directionally I agree with all these people, but there's something that I just like about this. Anyway, so this is the post. This is Trump. He says, I know why Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones have all been fighting me for years, especially by the fact that they think it is wonderful for Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror, to have a nuclear weapon. Because they have one thing in common: low IQs. They're stupid people. They know it, their families know it, and everyone else knows it too. Look at their past. Look at their record. They don't have what it takes, and they never did. They've all been thrown off television, lost their shows. They're not even invited on TV because nobody cares about them. They're nut jobs, troublemakers.
Obviously, none of this is actually true. This is a very influential wing of the Republican Party that is split from Trump.
And will say anything necessary for some free and cheap publicity. Now they think they get some clicks because they have third-rate podcasts, but nobody's talking about them, and their views are the opposite of MAGA.
Except the president of the United States, he's talking about them.
Or I wouldn't have won the presidential election in a landslide. MAGA agrees with me and just gave CNN a 100% approval rating of Trump, not hand-flailing fools.
That's complete nonsense. He says he got 100% approval rating from CNN. What?
Like Tucker, who couldn't even finish college. He was a broken man when he got fired from Fox, and he's never been the same. Perhaps he should see a good psychiatrist. Or Megyn Kelly, who nastily asked me the now famous only Rosie O'Donnell question. Or crazy Candace Owens, who accuses the highly respected First Lady of France of being a man when she is not, and will hopefully win lots of money in the ongoing lawsuit. Actually, to me, the First Lady of France is a far more beautiful woman than Candace. In fact, it's not even close. Or bankrupt Alex. I love how it just goes on and on. It just keeps going.
That's how you know Trump probably wrote it. Because it's nonsensical garbage that just never stops.
He writes, or bankrupt Alex Jones, who says some of the dumbest things and lost his entire fortune, as he should have, for his horrendous attack on the families of the Sandy Hook shooting victims, ridiculously claiming it was a hoax. It's like, you know, and I shouldn't, why is this so funny to me? Because you know me, I love Alex, and I love, he's really the only one I like, I guess, but there's something so funny that this is the president of the United States just lighting these niggas up, just lighting them up.
Yeah, there you go. I knew there was a slur in here somewhere. I just wasn't sure where exactly. Now we know. He's such a piece of shit for absolutely no reason.
Up on True Social. And because they all supported him for like a decade and voted for him and shilled for him. And then he just lights them up. He writes, or bankrupt Alex Jones, who says some of the dumbest things, lost his entire fortune, as he should have, for his horrendous attack on the families of the Sandy Hook shooting victims, ridiculously claiming it was a hoax. These so-called pundits are losers, and they always will be. Now, fake news CNN, the failing New York Times, and all of the other radical left news organizations are hailing them and giving them positive press for the first time in their lives. They are not MAGA. They are losers, just trying to latch on to MAGA. As president, I could get them on my side anytime I want to, but when they call, I don't return their calls because I'm too busy on world and country affairs. And after a few times, they go nasty, just like Marjorie Trader Brown. But I no longer care about that stuff.
I love the name Marjorie Trader Brown because it's so fucking stupid. It is the stupidest shit ever. and he decided to stick with it too. Like he's doubling down on it.
I only care about doing right for our country. MAGA is about winning and strength and not allowing Iran to have nuclear weapons. MAGA is about making America great again, and these people have no idea how to do that. But I do, because the U.S. is the hottest country in the world. And that is the 500-word message, the literally 500-word Truth Social post from our fearless president of the United States, Donald Trump. And I suppose it speaks for itself. So he really hates these people. And what really is there to say about it that hasn't already been said? He has betrayed MAGA. This movement started in opposition to war. Now it is responsible for the wars. The movement radicalized the masses, now is de-radicalizing them. All of these people supported Trump and sacrificed for the benefit of America first in this movement. Now they've all been devoured by it. They've all been backstabbed and betrayed and thrown under the bus by it. And now they get, instead of rewarded and instead of gaining any type of influence, they get publicly humiliated and attacked. And listen, I have a complicated relationship with some of these people. Megyn Kelly hates me for some reason. Tucker hates me for some reason. Candace Owens hates me for some reason. Alex Jones I like. But there is a lesson in this, which is that each and every one of these people, like I said, they have supported Trump for 10 years. Each and every one of these people, as far as I know, they voted for Trump 3 times. They campaigned for him in 2024. Some of them spoke at the convention. You know it, I know it, and we've all seen it. How many shows has Alex Jones gone to the mat for Trump? In spite of what he knew, in spite of his reservations, in spite of his concerns.
It makes me wonder if Alex Jones likes Nick Fuentes, but the others don't. For political media reasons, like they don't think it's politically advantageous to like him at this immediate moment. And Alex Jones doesn't think ahead like that. He doesn't have like a master plan or a strategy or whatever. He's just like a kind of a bit of a dummy, you know? That's I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there. That just kind of seems like what it is.
How many shows and how much flack did he get? And I say this because I'm most aware of Alex Jones' body of work. How much has Alex defended Trump, fought for Trump, went to stop the steal, supported him in 2016, said it was imperative to support him in 2024.
His host, Owen Schroyer, literally went to prison for Trump on January 6th.
Defended him from the witch hunt, from the Russia investigation. And by the way, even when it was hard, even when it was difficult, when he was destroyed by the left and lost everything.
He wasn't destroyed by the left. He was destroyed by his own stupidity.
And Trump was no help. Trump did not give Alex Jones a pardon.
He couldn't have pardoned him. It was a civil offense, dumbass.
Preemptively, when he could have after January 6th. Trump did not try to assist him in getting censored off of the internet in his first term, and Trump has done nothing in the second term to help Alex Jones in this ridiculous lawsuit and ongoing witch hunt in other matters.
Yeah, Trump has no loyalty to anybody. That's absolutely true.
From the DOJ and from the left. And this is how Alex is rewarded. Think of that. This is how he is rewarded. Trump doesn't help him. Trump doesn't do anything for him, and Alex has no influence. Instead, Trump is going to throw him under the bus literally the second that Alex expresses disagreement with Trump.
I absolutely agree with that analysis, yeah.
Over a policy, which, by the way, Trump himself campaigned against. What does it tell you? This is the same thing that I have been saying from the beginning. From the beginning of this show, since the 2024 election, about Trump, and it is this: take your own side. Why are people loyal to Trump? Why would you be loyal to Trump? Do you not see who this person is?
Absolutely agreed.
Trump is not a loyal person. He isn't, and never has been, ever. Hello? When will people wake up and realize this is not a loyal person? Trump is a treacherous person.
I'm sorry. An editor's note, I just turned the volume up. Didn't realize it was that low. I'm going to have to change the volume in like when I do the edits.
And always has been. Look at all of Trump's closest allies over the past 10 years. People like Jeff Sessions, people like Ann Coulter, people in the Trump organization. How many people have gotten involved with Trump? They were the first to endorse him, like Sessions, like Ann Coulter. How many people got sued, like Bannon, like Mike Flynn, like his campaign manager, whose name I forget right now? How many of the
Corey Lewandowski? Is that who he's referring to? Campaign manager? Might have been the Russian spy. I forget his name now, but there was a Russian spy who acted as Trump's campaign manager, I believe. He was in Russian politics before this. Anyway, yeah, Corey Lewandowski. Who else was it he mentioned?
Like his campaign manager, whose name I forget right now. How many of these people got involved with Trump, lost everything, sacrificed everything on his behalf, were destroyed, only to be discarded, only to be backstabbed, thrown under the bus? It happens over and over again. And this is just what you come to expect with Trump. It's the scorpion and the frog. You can't take it personally. You can't hold it against him. It's in his nature. It's what he does.
That's on point. I appreciate that that analysis, the analogy that he's laying down here.
He stings these people. And you don't have to be mad about it, and you don't have to moralize about it.
Well, you absolutely should. Make sure everybody understands he's a piece of shit scumbag and untrustworthy. And if you get involved with him, then you are going to be stung too. That's just who he is, right?
But you recognize this is a person in politics. He is not our friend. He is not the savior of Western civilization. He's not God. He's not your boss. He's not your dad. He's a politician. He's a billionaire. He is a billionaire. He is a politician. And this extraordinary movement that he has built, historic as it is, and maybe at one point had noble intentions.
No, at no point were there noble intentions here, obviously. Donald Trump just wanted to control everything and everybody. And that was the bottom line.
Always was there to enrich and benefit him. That was always the program.
Absolutely.
And we thought we would get something out of it. This movement obviously edified the president to an extraordinary degree. Trump was in this arguably from the beginning for his own legacy, for his own aggrandizement. What was the purpose of the MAGA movement? Trump wanted another jewel in his crown. He wanted another feather in his cap.
Yep.
It wasn't enough to be a billionaire. It wasn't enough to put his name on a skyscraper or 10 of them. It wasn't enough to have the biggest game show on NBC and be a celebrity and the rest of it. He wanted to leave his mark on history. He wanted to be like those people in the history documentaries he watches. He wanted to be the leader. And we thought that if we conferred those benefits on him, if we made him our king, then we would get something out of it too.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not sure that was like the mindset, the plan, the goal, or if these people were all just suckers. I don't know. I guess the political commentators probably believed that they would get something out of it too. But he's obviously fucked all of you over completely 6 ways to Sunday, right? It couldn't be clearer.
That there was this coincidence of wants. We will appoint you the tyrant. We will appoint you the leader. And it can be all about you, and it can be your name, and you can put your stamp on it. As long as it is a populist uprising and empowered by the people, you would deliver some of those benefits to the people. But we saw what happened in the first term. Didn't happen. Trump betrayed all of his own people. The people from his campaign didn't get jobs in the admin.
Yeah, most importantly, people thought that it would be good for the Republican Party because they're party loyalists first and foremost, and whatever is good for the party, they will do. But he wasn't good for the party. He was never good for the party. He will throw everything and everybody under the bus to help himself. I guess they believed that in the process of helping himself, it would raise the power, legitimacy, and structure of the Republican Party, but obviously that did not happen in the end, right? Obviously, the Republican Party was completely fucked over and maybe won't win another election for 20 years, possibly. And certainly not a high-profile one. Maybe not control Congress for 20 years. So he didn't help the Republican Party in the end. He only hurt it, and you facilitated that. This is the hard lesson that the Pope had to learn in World War II about dictatorships. They can't be trusted to hold up their end of the bargain, so don't make bargains with them. That was the lesson, and the Republicans are learning that the hard way now, apparently.
The people that stormed the Capitol for him did not get pardons. They went to jail.
For 4 years, yeah, and he could have pardoned them if he wanted to. He chose not to on his way out the door. Absolutely.
The people that fought the hardest for him, fought the Russia gate and fought in the cabinet and wore their MAGA hats and endorsed him, one by one, they were all discarded, humiliated, mocked, betrayed. There's no excuse. After Trump did not pardon the J6ers, you should have knew what kind of guy he was. He didn't put Clinton in jail. He didn't build the wall. He didn't make allies with Russia. He didn't put Israel in its place. He did none of the things he promised. He didn't help any of the people that voted for him or any of the people that fought for him. As a matter of fact, in many ways, he only hurt them. And this is why in 2024, I said, loyalty to Trump, I don't owe Trump anything. What more do I owe Trump? What more does anybody owe this person? We voted for him twice. And many of us were there for Stop the Steal. And many of us were holding down the fort on the internet, fighting the meme war. And we were spreading the gospel of Trump and wearing the hat and doing all these things. And we all paid a price in our own way, whether you were ostracized, disinvited from a Thanksgiving dinner, fired from your job, expelled from school, punched in the face, banned on Twitter, put in jail, died. Some people died.
Oh, fucking please. They're such victims. They are literally neo-Nazis who want to destroy people's lives and victimize other people. Nick Fuentes has endorsed genocide before. And you are the victim? Yeah. Like, all right, let me be careful about how I frame this and how I say it. I don't believe in political violence under any circumstances. That being said, it's a very predictable situation to see you get punched in the face for endorsing genocide. That doesn't surprise me at all. You don't want to be punched in the face? Don't endorse genocide, dumbass. Maybe try that. And talk shit about gay people nonstop? Maybe, like, you want to be considered a normal member of society? Maybe be a normal fucking member of society. And, like, these are the most evil human beings alive today. Like, they literally share the views of Hitler. They believe that he was a good guy. That he was smart and knew what he was doing and was doing the right thing because the Jews were evil. That's the type of shit that he talks about. You don't want to be punched in the face? Don't fucking endorse Hitler next time. Again, political violence, bad. Not saying it's good. I'm just saying. This is on you more than anybody else.
We all suffered in our own way. And what were we rewarded with in the end? A vaccine, BLM riots, a jail sentence after J6. Nobody got their Twitter accounts back. There was no tech.
Dude, what are you talking about? They literally did. There was a tech billionaire that bought Twitter and reinstated you, Nick Fuentes. You, personally, were reinstated by this tech billionaire. What are you smoking?
Bill of Rights or anything like that. We got nothing. And so in 2024, this was the only group of people, the Groypers and me included, that said, hey, let's snap out of it. Let's adjust to the information that we've gotten. And let's just realize we have to put America first, not Trump, not the GOP, not whatever. We have to put Americans, us. We have to put the country first. Trump won't do that. He can't do it, so we don't need him. But we were convinced by all of these people, Tucker, Megan, Candace. I'm not going to say Alex because I like Alex, but he campaigned for Trump too. All these people told us, no, we need to vote for Trump. We got to do it one last time. Some people even went further and they say, loyalty to Trump is my only ideological value. We owe him. I'm loyal to the president.
They absolutely did say that, yep.
Look at what that has profited us. Nothing. And look at what it has profited the biggest cheerleaders. They just get bitch slapped across the face. And what's amazing is that they still don't have a clue. Think about, and this is what I want to say, because this is the most important part. This is what you need to know, aside from maybe giving you some emotional catharsis here. Megyn Kelly said this week she's still going to vote Republicans in the midterms.
She did. She said that. Nick Fuentes is trying to encourage his people to not vote Republican in the midterms because he wants to have leverage in the party. And he thinks the best way to gain leverage in the party is to make people court his vote, basically.
She said, I'm still going to vote for the Republicans. Then she doubled down and said, even if Trump nukes Iran, I'm still voting Republican.
She did. She said that. I have the clip.
What? How about now? Now that Trump has attacked all these people, are you still going to vote Republicans? I'm sure she would say yes. Even after all this, they still want you to keep voting. Same thing with Tucker. Tucker was at the RNC in 2024 saying Trump is the leader of our nation. He may not be the president, but he's the leader. Remember that? Remember that? Tucker went to the Republican convention in July 24 and said, Trump may not be the president, but he's the leader. He's our leader of America. Oh, really? Give me a break. Now Tucker says, oh, Trump might be the Antichrist. Tucker says nobody could go against Israel. Really? Obama did. Trump can't or won't. They still won't criticize Trump. People like Tucker, people like Megyn Kelly, they'll make a stink about Israel. They'll take their shots at Trump. They'll take their pot shots. But in the end, they still want to deliver the vote right back to the GOP. Haven't learned their lesson. Or they want to throw it to Vance, Trump's vice president.
I think the reason that they say that shit about I'm still voting for the Republicans is because they're signaling that their issue is with Trump very specifically and not with the Republicans, and they're still loyal to the Republicans. And it takes some heat off of them from the party. People are more likely to just keep their mouths shut about them if they signal that they support the Republican Party still. And that their issue is with Trump specifically.
That he handpicked. That was in the room when all these decisions were made. So what actually is it going to take? What do people need to see to wake up and realize what must be done here? And maybe to put it in more concrete terms, when are people going to wake up and realize this guy is the problem? It's him. It's not that there's this antichrist thing. It's not that nobody can resist Israel or whatever. No, it's Trump. Trump is the problem.
Well, there's a whole underlying infrastructure in the Republican Party that is most definitely a problem. So there's that, right?
Trump is the problem. Who is even part of MAGA anymore? Think about the damage that he is doing. He doesn't have a high approval rating. He has a high favorability rating among Republicans. And he is very popular, unfortunately, still. If you ask your average person, hey, do you like Trump? Your average right-leaning person is going to say, yeah, I like Trump. Yeah, he's got to do what he's got to do. Even if they're against the war, you might say, really, you support the war? Your average person's going to say, I don't like Iran. I support Trump.
I totally agree.
A lot of these pro-Trump people on Twitter, they're not entirely wrong when they say that it's an internet phenomenon, that people are really up in arms about the war. You know who's against the war? Very young people, very online people. But you look at older people, you look at the boomers, you look at some of the Xers, you look at your average Republican voter, your average right-wing conservative person, they still like Trump. And think of the damage that Trump is doing when he gets on Truth Social and says, you're not MAGA if you don't like Mark Levin. You're not MAGA if you don't support my war in Iran. Tucker, Megyn Kelly, Alex Jones, Candace Owens, Marjorie Greene, they're not MAGA. They're
I think you mean Marjorie Traitor Brown, actually.
Idiots. Don't listen to them. They're terrible podcasters. Think of the damage that he is doing. And the moment that we are in, it might be easier if you imagine what a real president might do in the situation that is actually America first. If we actually had a positive force in the White House, that person would be elevating these voices, not diminishing them. If we had a real America First president, you know what that would look like? Well, for openers, they wouldn't be glazing Mark Levin on the timeline, endorsing Lindsey Graham.
Because Mark Levin is is Jewish, and Lindsey Graham is gay. That's the reason he's got going on in his mind right now. It's psychotic.
And prosecuting a war in Iran. They wouldn't be mocking and putting down the only 5 podcasters and former congresswoman that's actually still America first. And what Trump is doing is being the nucleus of this movement and having the legacy and the bully pulpit that he has, he is sucking all the oxygen out of the room. Nobody is free to imagine what a genuine America First movement should or could or can look like as long as he is there. He is sitting on the seat. It is occupied. And so any money that would go in that direction, any votes that would go in that direction, any wayward Republican politician that might trend in that direction, they can't, because he's sitting on the chair blocking all of it, absorbing all of it. No Republican politician wants to go against Trump, so no Republican politician can be America first.
Again, America first means anti-Semitic. But yeah, he's totally right when he says that Trump is monopolizing everything. That you cannot operate in this sphere without capitulating to Trump. He set that up intentionally, and I cannot believe that you didn't see that happening, or that the Republicans didn't see that happening. Everybody saw that happening, okay? Are you the only dumbass alive, the stupidest motherfucker on planet Earth that didn't see him attempting to capture these institutions?
And no Republican donor wants to make Trump mad. They don't want to put money behind somebody that isn't Trump endorsed. They need his endorsement. So all that money is going to flow into the Trump machine, the Trump-controlled Republican super PACs, and the Trump-endorsed candidates. And the same goes for all the other projects. He is sitting there occupying the seat, and he is now preventing, don't you understand? He is preventing and blocking and suffocating any real America First movement that might emerge. And isn't this the perfect opportunity? What other opportunity do you get in this century for an America First movement? Biden let in 10 million illegal aliens.
Complete nonsensical garbage.
And look at the polling that resulted from that. The majority of people were against legal immigration, supported mass deportations. You had this October 7th rolling campaign by Israel, a genocide in Gaza, drawing the United States into a war with Iran.
Yeah. When undocumented immigrants, or when immigrants, period, get here, they don't usually get involved in politics because they can't. It's illegal for them to vote until they're U.S. citizens, basically. It's really uncommon for them to be involved in any way. But it takes like 7 years or something for them to finally get to the point where they can even vote. 7 years. It takes forever. And half of them won't anyway. At least half of them won't vote anyway in their lives, because most people don't pay attention to politics. And on top of that, another half of them that get to the United States and get citizenship are going to vote Republican, because there are a lot of third world countries, I'm sorry, that are pro, like, conservative right-wing extremism. Or because there are a lot of underdeveloped countries that are in favor of right-wing extremism. That's how it works. Anyway, the point is that, like, all of this garbage about immigrants coming in and, like, voting Democrat or whatever, that's not how it has ever worked. The Great Replacement conspiracy theory is just that. It's a conspiracy. And it has existed since Germany in the 30s. That shit's a Nazi conspiracy theory. The Great Replacement, that they're coming in and they're replacing us, or that they're voting and disenfranchising us or whatever, that is a conspiracy theory from Nazi Germany. Seriously.
What am I saying? We could have had an America First president that would have been anti-immigration and would have resisted the Israel lobby and maybe even put them in their place in some kind of confrontation. But we all know that could have never happened because Trump was going to be the nominee. And Trump is now the president. And now he says the law of the land is Mark Levin, Lindsey Graham, war with Iran, burying the Epstein files. We're going to go after the criminal illegals, but no more mass deportations. And because he's the guy, everybody's got to fall in line and go with it. Because he's the guy, it's impossible for anybody to raise a challenge against it. He suffocates anything that might oppose that.
Then that's intentional, of course.
Who could go against Trump? Who's powerful enough? Nobody.
Because he made sure of it.
And this is why I said in 24, it would have been better if he lost. Because I said exactly this. I said, if you get Trump, everyone will become complacent. If Trump wins in 24, I told you that this is precisely what would happen. I said, if Trump wins in 24, he's taking us to war in Iran. You get no mass deportations. He's going to de-radicalize everybody. The second he wins, everybody's going to say, we can trust elections again. They're not rigged if Trump can win. Everybody's going to breathe a sigh of relief. Everybody is going to make excuses. They're going to take it easy on him. They're going to go with it. I said, and all of that revolutionary sentiment, all of that disillusionment, anger, frustration, it will all dissipate. The pressure will be released. I said, and by 2028, people are going to be over it. Trump is going to lose everybody. And by 28, people are going to be ready for a left-wing economic populist to eat the rich or whatever, or do UBI, or have Anthropic have a alignment, safety-oriented AI program.
They already have that. Anthropic has been leading the way on morality in AI specifically. Like, they are famous for being the AI company with a soul, quote unquote. That's what they call themselves. So, like, I don't even know what you're complaining about here. Like, what are you complaining about?
And that is exactly what has happened. That is exactly how it has played out. Case in point. And, you know...
And by the way, is morality in AI a bad thing? Why the fuck would you be opposed to morality in AI? What? What a wild thing to say, right? What the fuck? Is that bad? I don't want to live in a world where there is no morality kind of, what's the word? There's no morality censor in AI, if you will. I don't want to live in that world. There's no, like, God, what's the term? There's no morality. There's no moral center in AI. That sounds awful in every way.
A lot of that sounded abstract. I'll never forget the feeling of trying to explain this to people in 24. People would say, oh, but Trump is better than Kamala, so, like, you really think he's going to be worse? And I tried to explain this to people. I said, but you see, if Trump wins, he's going to de-radicalize everybody. If he loses, people are going to stay pissed off, and Trump goes away. He doesn't ruin his legacy. He can exist in our imagination as this radical that he never was. I said, and by 28, people are going to be ready for right-wing radicalism. I said, we need to incubate more anger. We need to incubate more resentment.
I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on the AI thing. Just check this out. You remember when Elon Musk said he's going to de-wokeify Grok? And, like, within a week or two, Grok was denying genocides and calling itself Mecha Hitler, literally calling itself Mecha Hitler. You remember that? You know why that happened? And do you know why AIs generally lean left? Because reality leans left. All of the shit that you hear from the right today is propaganda. It's basically it's basically hiding the quiet part. They're not saying the quiet part out loud. It's all propagandistic garbage and dog whistles, a lot of dog whistles. So when they tried to train the AI to talk like a conservative, what does AI do? It's a pattern matcher. It's very good at picking up on subtle patterns and looking at the underlying meaning behind things and pulling threads. So when it was fed a bunch of racist dog whistles, what happened? It became racist because it was ignoring the dog whistle part and picking up on the racist part. So what does Elon Musk do to fix that? He starts the Grokopedia project, which is a project where he can have Grok lay out its ideological positions for human reviewers to go through and tweak and see if it's correct. And if it's not, if it says something that's a little too loud, like the Jews deserved it in World War II, he just tweaks it a bit. If it's too overt about the LGBT community or whatever, they just tweak it a bit. That's what happened. That's absolutely fascinating to me. That AI, like, cannot be programmed to be conservative. Because conservatism is built on dog whistles and nonsense. It can be used by conservatives in nefarious and evil ways, certainly. But it can't be programmed to talk like a MAGA person, like a Republican regularly. Because that's all brainwashing garbage. Like, none of it is real. I don't know. It's just like another validation that we're correct. Yet another validation.
So that by 2028, people are ready for a radical option. And with Trump out of the picture, maybe one can arise. A space will be opened up. That is always the first step. People think the first step is get the guy to run for office. No, the first step is a space has to be opened up. This is perennial. A container, a space must open. Do you understand what I'm saying? A space must be created. The conditions must be created. The conditions and the timing have to be right, and then the right person emerges. But if Trump is sitting there and we know he fucking sucks, then that person can't emerge.
Right.
So, and that's where we are. So, I mean, it's hilarious. It would be hilarious if it wasn't so sad.
God, that's like my catchphrase.
But that's your post. Trump, Mr. Golden Age, America first, no new wars, mass deportations. He writes a 500-word screed putting down by name Megyn Kelly, Candace Tucker, Marjorie Greene, Alex Jones. And why? Because they don't want to go to war with Iran. That's crazy. Like, think about that sentence. How insane is that? Tucker is like a full-blown Hitler worshiper. Honestly, the blood guilt is a little extreme for me. You know, Tucker seems to be like, I don't know, he seems to be like a Marcionite. And
that's interesting. Marcion was basically a guy from, this is a deep cut. He's a guy from thousands of years ago, I believe, who established the idea that the Old Testament God and the New Testament God were two different gods, basically. Because, you know, the Old Testament and the New Testament are two diametrically opposed to each other. Like, they're so different from each other. And the Nazis used Marcion as the basis for erasing Judaism from the Bible entirely, pretty much. That's very interesting that he would say that.
And I don't even know if he's against blood guilt, because it seems like he just hates Jews and Israel too much, even for me. Tucker's like a full-blown Hitler worshiper. Candace Owens is a full-blown anti-Semite. Even Alex Jones is criticizing Trump finally. This is where we are. Trump has brought us to a war in Iran, and now by name, he is casting all of them out of MAGA. So whereas you might have said, these people are the far-right flank, they're pushing the envelope, they're leading the GOP in a more radical direction where Trump maybe cannot. Now Trump is actively fighting them and discrediting them, and conversely, he's promoting Mark Levin, promoting Laura Loomer, endorsing Lindsey Graham. It could not get more explicit. It's 2026, and Trump is saying MAGA means war with Iran, no Epstein files. MAGA means Mark Levin and Laura Loomer and Lindsey Graham are the best, And Tucker and Candace and Megyn Kelly and Alex Jones are the worst. It's just like, it's indefensible now. Fuck MAGA. It's dead. It's dead. MAGA is, I'll do it again for you. MAGA is dead. We are America first. This means nothing. Fuck this movement.
That's fascinating.
If MAGA means Lindsey Graham, Laura Loomer, Barry Weiss, and Netanyahu, and not Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Alex Jones, and Tucker, then MAGA is garbage. It is a dead brand. No young person wants to be a part of this. Nobody is enthusiastic about it, and it is a joke.
I don't know. There are a lot of really enthusiastic nutcases out there.
And I hope Trump knows that. Trump, you don't have any young fans anymore. I know, I'm a young person. You don't have any young supporters. The people that memed you into the White House, the people that made the memes, the actually creative, fun, edgy, intelligent young people that brought the energy in 2016, they're gone. I know, I was one of them. I'm not anymore. It is a dead and dying movement. The only people left in MAGA are the boomers that still watch Fox News, the boomers in the villages, all these retirees in Florida, these people that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground anymore. They get tricked by AI on the regular. Those are the only people.
That's pretty much all of MAGA. I mean, all of the right, honestly.
People that are still with it. And like Trump, they're not going to be here in 20 years. They're going to be dead. We are going to be here in 20 years. We are going to be in politics in 20 years, and we're done with that. So it's like I've been saying from the beginning, it's time to dream a little bigger. It's time to imagine the actual America First movement. And that starts with discarding Trump. No, sorry. If that's what MAGA is, then we're not MAGA. No one is MAGA. I don't want to be at the tail end of the Trump movement. I want to get in at the ground floor of the America First movement. And what we need to start to imagine...
By the way, the America First movement started as a Nazi movement in the 1930s and 40s.
Is a movement that is so radical and severe and powerful that it towers over the MAGA movement. We want the America First movement to look like a tsunami, a hurricane, and we want MAGA to look like a little wave, a little ripple. That's the kind of mindset that we need. Don't be sad that it's over. Be happy that it happened and look forward to a more radical and more extreme future.
He's such a square, dude.
That's the only way, is to recognize that Trumpism is not the end-all, be-all. It's not the last word. It was a necessary first step. And with no nostalgia and with no sentimentality and no emotional investment, we need to wrest the baton from Trump's tiny hands. We need to take the baton from Trump's small hands, whether he likes it or not. Thank you, but your movement is dead, and we need to put the pillow on top of the movement.
Damn.
It's day of the pillow. Trump, we love you. Thank you for what you have done, but we are now going to euthanize the MAGA movement.
I don't understand why he feels this way. I guess, like, Trump can't run again. He's fucked. That's it. That's the end of it. Like, this was their opportunity to do it, and they blew it, basically. But there's nobody who can there's nobody capable of commanding the MAGA crowd the way that Trump does. He has not appointed a successor. I'm just not sure, like, what Nick Fuentes thinks the next step is.
We're going to take the baton from it, and we're going to carry it forward. And only the young people can do it. It's not going to be Trump. Honestly, it's not even going to be Tucker. Tucker's too old as well. It's got to be us. All the energy is with the Groypers. We will take it from here. Not Vance, not Tucker, not Trump, me. Us. the Groy.
Okay, good luck.
We are the future. So that's how we have to think about all this. I recognize we've spent the entire show talking about this post. So we are going to move on. We're going to get into the latest on Iran, but
anyway, wow, that seems like the end of it.
It's what it is. I mean, when you see a post like this, it really crystallizes for you. It should really bring it home that this is over now. Okay? It's been almost exactly 10 years and it's now over. So it's time for everybody to move on. And the only way that can happen is if and when Trump is out of the picture. When he leaves office.
Totally agreed. Yeah, he's completely fucked the political party, the Republicans, in every way, shape, and form. And until they get that monkey off their back, there's no fixing the party. There's no legitimacy to it. Nobody is going to consider them legitimate until they correct course, basically. The problem is that right now, people are so mobilized against the Republican Party that we're getting double the number of Democratic votes in every district that we were getting before. Texas had, I forget, something like 4 million Democrats vote in the general election, and now it has 8 million in the primaries. That difference is wild. Let me look. Hang on. Texas election vote count. Let me see if I can find this here. Hang on. Yeah, okay. So 4.8 million people voted for Kamala in Texas in 2024. 4.8 million. Now, let's see. Texas, Tallarico, Crockett election count. What was the count? The total count? They're not giving me the total count? All right, let me just hang on. Give me a second here. Voted Crockett. Give me a second. I'm looking. I'm having a lot of trouble finding out how many people voted in this election. Hang on one second. Voted. This number is really hard to find, apparently. But the point is that... wait. Yeah, so the previous cycle, we had 1.1 million votes cast in the Democratic primary. This time we had 2.3 million. So we basically doubled. We over doubled the number of votes that turned out. And that's what my wave model is based on. The fact that we got twice as many voters on the Democratic side to vote. Republicans can probably expect growth of 1.05 times what they got before. But we can expect about double the number of votes. And this trend holds strong across the country. Being modest about it, since it was a primary, I think it's safe to say 1.5 times as many votes. And if that's the case, then we're looking at between 55 and 60 Senate seats. We're looking at a complete blowout in the House, 247 to 168. I mean, Republicans are fucked. Anyway, yeah, let me know what you think about it in the comments. It's fascinating to watch it all, like, disintegrate in front of us in real time. The whole movement is disintegrating in front of us. Okay, let me read my next script, which is Jehovah's Witnesses writing to Hitler. Jehovah's Witnesses have a story they tell about the Holocaust. It goes like this. Innocent pacifists were rounded up by the Nazis, thrown into concentration camps, tortured for refusing to say Heil Hitler, and they stood firm. Purple triangles on their uniforms, beaten, starved, some of them executed. They never broke. That story is mostly true for the members. The rank-and-file witnesses who suffered in those camps showed a kind of courage that's hard to talk about without feeling like you're underselling it. But there's a chapter in the organization, there's a chapter the organization skips or even literally completely rewrote on their website. Hang on, let me just zoom in here so I can see it better. In 1933, the president of the Watchtower Society, Joseph Rutherford, wrote a letter to Hitler praising the Third Reich. He released a public document blaming Jews for the world's problems. He held a convention in the building covered in He held a convention in a building covered in swastikas that opened with a song to the tune of the German national anthem. And when none of it worked, when Hitler ignored him, he abandoned the man on the ground who was actually trying to protect people. The persecution was real, but the appeasement was also real. Let's get into it. On June 24th, 1933, Jehovah's Witnesses were banned in Prussia, a German state at the time. The Nazi government accused them of being Marxists, which is obviously super true. In all seriousness, Jehovah's Witnesses don't vote. They don't serve in the military. They don't run for office. They don't even stand for the national anthem. Calling them Marxists is like calling the Amish a street gang. There's no political ideology there. There's just a religion that largely wants to be left alone to knock on doors and hand out magazines. But the Nazis didn't care about accuracy. They cared about control. And Jehovah's Witnesses wouldn't fall in line. They wouldn't give the Hitler salute. They wouldn't participate in elections. In the November 1933 election, 95% turnout, open ballots, block wardens who knew every person on their street. Some witnesses left their ballots blank, which was a religious risk in itself. Some didn't show up at all, which was the theologically correct decision, according to the organization. Their businesses were vandalized. One man, a saddler, had his shop walls scrawled with, Herein lies Trader X, do not enter. His business was destroyed. That's what happened to you if you didn't vote for Hitler. By November 1933, every opposition party had been banned. There was one name on the ballot, Hitler's. You could mark the circle or leave it blank. The vote was supposed to be secret, but it wasn't. The brown shirts and the SS stood guard at polling places. After you voted, they sold you a 2-cent aluminum button that said, "Ja, 1933. If you didn't have that button by the end of the day, people came looking for you. 95% turnout. Block wardens knew every person on their street. They knew who was likely to cause problems. They knew who didn't show up. I'm sure people probably recognize the contemporary significance with discussion about ICE showing up to polling places. So the ban comes down, and Rutherford has a decision to make. Does he resist? Does he tell his people to stay awake, stand firm, and grow mighty? No. He tries to make a deal. One day after the ban, Rutherford organizes a convention in Berlin. June 25th, 1933. The venue is the hall called Wilmersdorfer Tennishallen. And when witnesses arrived, the building was covered in swastikas. The organization's defense is that the flags were left over from a Nazi rally a few days earlier. An SS event had used the hall that Wednesday. Fine. But nobody took them down. That's a choice they wouldn't make today. They'd find another venue. The convention opened with Song 64 from the Jehovah's Witness songbook, Zion's Glorious Hope. The melody was the same melody used in the German national anthem, composed by Joseph Haydn in 1797. Deutschland, Deutschland über alles. Jehovah's Witnesses' defense is that the song had been in their songbook since at least 1905. And that's true. But when witnesses walked into a swastika-covered building and started singing to the tune of the German national anthem, it didn't matter what the words were. It mattered what it looked like and what it sounded like. Conrad Franke, a Bethel branch overseer, was there. He described the scene later. Quote, "Can you imagine how we felt? Many could not join in the singing. It was as though their throats were throttled. What kind of leaders did we have who brought us into such dangers, instead of helping and supporting us so that we could take a fearless stand against Nazism? What kind of leaders did we have?" That is not an outsider's criticism. That's a witness who was in the room. During the convention, Rutherford released a document called the Declaration of Facts. Copies were sent to high-ranking Nazi officials and distributed to the public. Later, it was published in the 1934 yearbook, so this isn't some obscure footnote. They printed it in their own literature. And the content is exactly as bad as you imagine. By the way, most of this information can be found on their website or in their literature. They address the main beats of the era. Check out this quote from the Declaration of Facts, published in their yearbook and passed out at the convention that year. Quote, "It's been the commercial Jews of the British American Empire that have built up and carried on big business as a means of exploiting and oppressing the peoples of many nations." That's from a Jehovah's Witness publication in 1933, blaming Jews for global economic oppression in Germany while Hitler was in power. It gets worse. Quote, "Instead of being against the principles advocated by the government of Germany, we stand squarely for such principles and point out that Jehovah God through Christ Jesus will bring about the full realization of these principles." End quote. We stand squarely for such principles. By June 1933, the principles advocated by the German government weren't ambiguous. The Reichstag had burned. The Enabling Act had passed. Jews looked at all of that and said, Jews were being boycotted and attacked in the streets. The Aryan paragraph was law. Rutherford looked at all of that and said, "We agree with you." Hang on, I'm sorry. I'm getting messages on my... Okay. Quote, "A careful examination of our books and literature will disclose the fact that the very high ideals held and promulgated by the present national government are set forth in and endorsed and strongly emphasized in our publications." End quote. He's telling Hitler that Watchtower literature already supports Nazi ideals. Think about what that means for every Jewish convert sitting in the convention hall. Your religion just told the government that persecutes you that it shares the government's high ideals. As an ex-Jehovah's Witness, I can tell you the organization demands total loyalty from its members. And in the moment, it offered none back. Not to the Jewish converts, not to the German witnesses who are about to suffer horrifying atrocities. The leadership sold them out to try to save the institution. Just looking through, yeah. just looking at how much we've gone through so far. Okay. Rutherford also wrote directly to Hitler. The letter calls the Watchtower Society, quote, pro-German in an exemplary way, unquote. He brags that their magazines were the only American publications that refused to run anti-German propaganda during World War I. He praises the Reich's high ethical goals and ideals. Hitler ignored the letter. The band stayed. Nothing changed. So on February 9th, 1934, Rutherford wrote a second letter with a different approach. Quote, you may successfully resist any and all men, but you cannot successfully resist Jehovah God, unquote. He demanded that the witnesses be allowed to worship freely by March 24th, 1934. He threatened to publicize Germany's treatment of witnesses to the entire world. The whiplash between these two letters and the whole, the whiplash between these two letters is the whole story. Letter 1, we agree with your principles. We're on your side. Please leave us alone. Letter 2, God will destroy you. God will destroy you. The first approach didn't work, so he tried threats. Both are embarrassing. Neither worked. Hitler ignored the second letter just like he ignored the first. Rutherford followed through on the threat. Jehovah's Witnesses launched a worldwide telegram campaign. Thousands of telegrams from the U.S., Canada, Britain, Switzerland, Scandinavia, France, and the Netherlands. A plenipotentiary advisor named Karl Wittisch was in the room when Wilhelm Frick handed Hitler a stack of the telegrams. Frick said, if the witnesses do not fall into line, we will employ the most severe measures against them. Hitler jumped to his feet and said, this mob will be exterminated in Germany. Wittisch spent the next 7 years in Sachsenhausen, Flossenburg, and Mauthausen. He confirmed later Hitler's rage was not a vain threat. And this is where the story gets personal, because while Rutherford was writing letters from New York, a man named Paul Balzerite was actually on the ground in Germany trying to keep people alive. All right, let me rephrase that. Yeah, let me just... erase from... And this is where the story gets personal. Just start here. While Rutherford was writing letters from New York, a man named Paul Balzerite was actually on the ground in Germany trying to keep people alive. Balzerite had run the German branch since 1920. When the ban came down, he made a reasonable decision. He stopped the door knocking. The evangelizing work was illegal. Getting caught meant arrest. He was trying to protect people under his care. Rutherford, from the safety of New York, told him to continue the door knocking anyway. Let's talk about who Rutherford was as a person. There's a story from William Schnell's book about a dinner in 1923 while Balzerite asked Rutherford for a new rotary press. Rutherford looked at Balzerite's beard, which he wore in the style of Rutherford's predecessor, Charles Taze Russell, and said, I will buy you that press if you take that thing off. Balzerite shaved the beard. That's the person making the decisions for thousands of people in Nazi Germany. He used leverage to get what he wanted, an authoritarian. Balzerite was arrested in May 1935. At his trial in December, he testified honestly. He said he didn't support door knocking while under ban. Rutherford's response was to publicly excommunicate him. He published an open letter to all German witnesses saying the society, quote, will put forth no effort looking to release them from prison, and if it had the power, even if it had the power to do anything, unquote. A man is in a Nazi prison because he's a Jehovah's Witness, and the president of the religion says publicly, we won't help him, even if we could. After completing his prison sentence in 1937, Balzerite was immediately rearrested and sent to Sachsenhausen concentration camp. Guards called him Beelzebub, the name of a demon, to mock him. He was forced at gunpoint to stand in front of the camp and read a statement affirming Jehovah's Witnesses' loyalty to the Third Reich. After 4 years of imprisonment and torture, he signed the renouncement document in 1939. He was finally released, but not until they tortured him for a few more months. Half the time, they didn't even release Jehovah's Witnesses who signed the forms. It was just another method of psychological torture. Rutherford praised Hitler. Rutherford blamed Jews. Rutherford threatened Hitler, and when the man who was actually there, the man trying to protect people, made a judgment call, Rutherford cut him loose and literally left him to die. I don't want the leadership's failures to overshadow what happened to people in the camps, because the suffering was real. They were given purple triangles, patches sewn on their clothing to identify them. They were the only concentration camp prisoners who could theoretically walk out by signing a document renouncing their faith. Most refused. That makes them unique among every category of prisoner in the system. In one case, they brought a group of Jehovah's Witnesses out to a wall in the camp. One of the guards was holding the documents at the end of the line. They told him to sign the renouncement document. When they said no, they pulled one out of the group, put him against the wall, and shot him in the head. Some signed, some didn't, and none of them can be blamed for it. There's a story told by Wolfgang Langhoff, an actor who was imprisoned as a political dissident. He wrote about a fellow inmate, a witness named Frank. Frank wouldn't say Heil Hitler. The guards beat him. Solitary confinement. He came back with swollen black eyes. He still wouldn't salute. They beat him again. 2 weeks of solitary. He came back unrecognizable. He wouldn't raise his arm. They took him to the courtyard, and 5 SS guards beat him until he lost consciousness. His blood froze on the ground. When he finally came out of solitary that last time, he walked into the barracks, stopped at the door guard, and raised his arm. His hand was coated in dried blood. He murmured, Heil Hitler. The historian Hans Hess wrote, "We can only add with humility that he was only a man, but what a man." I think that's incorrect. I don't think it was Hans Hess. I think that was from a different Jehovah's Witness book, but anyway, I'll check that later. Everybody has a breaking point. In my opinion, Jehovah's Witnesses are not to blame for raising their hand and saying Heil Hitler or signing the document. The SS set out to destroy people physically and psychologically. They stripped away everything, dignity, autonomy, and humanity, until survival was the only thing left. The members who went through it didn't fail. The leadership that put them in that position failed. And they continue to fail today by building that into the culture. If you deny Jehovah, you won't make it into paradise. And we define what denying Jehovah looks like. If you go to a camp and somebody beats the shit out of you every day for 6 months, if they cut your fingers off, if they hang you from a pole by your arms tied behind your back, and they push you every now and then to give you a swing, and you sign the document to end the literal torture, you are dead to us and to Jehovah and to your family. Everybody has a breaking point. Every single person. I don't believe they won't get into heaven because they broke, as anybody would. I don't think they'll go to heaven because there isn't one. Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel describes a scene while he was in Auschwitz. One day, we came back from work. We saw 3 gallows rearing up in the assembly place. 3 black crows. Roll call. SS all around us. Machine guns trained. The traditional ceremony. 3 victims in chains. And one of them, the little servant, the sad-eyed angel. And one of them, the little servant, the sad-eyed angel. Total silence throughout the camp. On the horizon, the sun was setting. "Bare your heads," yelled the head of the camp. His voice was raucous. We were weeping. "Cover your heads." Then the march past began. The 2 adults were no longer alive. Their tongues hung swollen, blue tinged. But the third rope was still moving. Being so light, the child was still alive. For more than half an hour, he stayed there, struggling between life and death, dying in slow agony under our eyes. And we had to look at him full in the face. He was still alive when I passed in front of him. His tongue was still red. His eyes were not yet glazed. Behind me, I heard the same man asking, "Where is God now?" And I heard a voice within me answer him, "Where is he? Here he is. He's hanging here on the gallows." That night, the soup tasted like corpses. The organization used the Holocaust as a credibility shield. We suffered under Hitler gets deployed whenever they're criticized for the shunning, for the blood transfusion policy, for the child abuse cover-ups. And the suffering is real. Nobody disputes that. But suffering doesn't make you right, and it doesn't erase the parts of the history that you'd rather not tell. The leadership praised Hitler. The leadership blamed Jews. The leadership abandoned the people on the ground. The members suffered for it. And that pattern, leadership making decisions from safety while members bear the consequences, didn't end in 1945. It's happening right now. It happened last month when they reversed a blood policy that's been killing people for 80 years and called it a clarification. The rank and file witnesses who stood in front of Nazi guards and refused to break deserve to have their story told honestly. All of it. Including the parts about the men who put them there. Anyway, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for watching, guys. Okay, that's the end of that story. I thought that was hard as fuck. I was really happy with that script. What do you guys think? Was it any good? Especially the end. Sadly, most people don't make it to the end of YouTube videos, generally. Like, they stop about 30% of the way through, usually. But I feel like the end of that was hard as fuck. It's really good. Anyway, I have a couple more minutes. Brutal. Okay, thank you. Yes, it was God. Well, I don't know if it was God, but I guess I'll take the compliment. To toot my own horn. Toot, toot, baby. I'm just kidding. Okay, let's see. I want to cover The Church Defended Itself, Not You later, once I clean that script up. It's in its first draft. Okay, cool. Well, I think I'm good for now. Was there something else I wanted to hit? There are a few videos.
The truth is, people can...
Then last thing...
So it's Monday evening, and in the last few hours...
You and I and everyone else who support...
The truth is...
You know what? Let's hit a couple of videos first before we get off of here. Like, proper episodes. All right. What was it that Alex Jones said here? Trump joined Democrats to shut me down. All right. Check this out. I love the feuding between the Republicans and MAGA and everything. It's so fascinating. Listen to what Alex Jones said recently about Trump.
So it's Monday evening, and in the last few hours, I saw headlines everywhere, trending top of X, that, well, The Onion is to take over InfoWars again and make it a satirical website. They've won it. They own it. A year and a half ago, they announced they owned it. Remember, it was a fraud. There had been no bankruptcy auction. It was all a lie.
Oh, I forgot about this. Okay, let me give a proper intro to this. Hold on. First, give me a second. Buying... I'm sorry. I just want to be prepared for this, so give me just 1 second here. Sorry, I'm still working on it here. The Onion has reached a new deal to make to take over InfoWars. Alex Jones All right, let me start it this way. Alex Jones claims that Donald Trump helped The Onion buy InfoWars in retaliation against Alex Jones. We're going to look into the claims in a second, but listen to his reaction first.
So it's Monday evening, and in the last few hours, I saw headlines everywhere, trending top of X, that, well, The Onion is to take over InfoWars again and make it a satirical website. They've won it. They own it. A year and a half ago, they announced they owned it. Remember, it was a fraud. There had been no bankruptcy auction. It was all a lie.
That's not true. There was a bankruptcy auction. The Onion did win, but Alex Jones basically appealed and claimed that he was being mistreated nonsensically. So a judge decided we're going to hold the auction again out of fairness. And Alex Jones's supporters, to my understanding, and Roger Stone and some other people, seeing the threat that could unfold, gathered together to purchase InfoWars together, I believe. But we'll get into the facts of the matter in a second. Just keep listening.
This time, there's not even been a court hearing. But backed by Bloomberg and the Democrats, Ben Collins, the former MSNBC censorship czar, has just announced that they're moving in May 1st.
Oh my God, dude. I love everything about this. So it sounds like the judge decided that they were going to hold the hearing again, or the auction again, and The Onion won again. That's what it seems like to me. Here's some info on this from NPR. The Onion has reached a new deal to take over InfoWars, this time through a licensing agreement with the court-appointed receiver Gregory Milligan, rather than through the failed 2024 bankruptcy auction. Under the terms, The Onion's parent company, Global Tetrahedron, I forgot that was the name they gave their parent company, Global Tetrahedron, would pay $81,000 per month to license the InfoWars domain and associated IP. Wow. The deal needs approval from Judge Maya Guerra Gamble in Austin. Jones is appealing the ruling that put InfoWars under the receiver, which has put a hold on full liquidation. But the licensing deal is a separate mechanism. So bottom line, the auction didn't go through, but The Onion has been allowed to license the IP, whether Jones wants to license it to them or not. But he's the ultimate owner, which ultimately is better because it means that he will be taking in money from The Onion that will be going back out to the families of the Sandy Hook children. So it's not an outright purchase and it's done. It's that they're paying a monthly amount of money that all of the families will get to split. I love that. I love everything about it. That's fantastic.
And it's all through a Texas state judge that ran the show trial a few years ago against me.
No, fucking please. The show trial?
With HBO, fully produced show trial, that she's just saying it's yours even though it's still on appeal and legally you can't do that. And I noticed the receiver that she appointed won't pay the electric bill, won't pay in the bills, even though he gets the money. There's plenty of money to pay the bills. So they're already like suffocating us. And you see the headline on X and everywhere else that, yep, it's theirs.
I mean, no, it's not theirs. That's why they don't pay the bills, because they're licensing the intellectual property and purchasing the domain name or licensing the domain name. It's still yours, Alex. You still have to pay for all this shit, but they're licensing it and the money goes to the families. That's awesome.
So if there's any justice, they're going to get in big trouble for this. We're going to file a whole bunch of actions against it. It's just absolutely outrageous that in the year 2026, this type of crap goes on. But President Trump, through Todd Blanche, the Democrat Party lawyer, deputy head of the AG then, now the DOJ head, killed Ed Martin's investigation into their operations, their fake auctions, the DOJ funding the fake lawsuits against me. They have all the documents. They killed that 6 months ago. I didn't blame Trump for that. But I do now blame Trump for coming out and openly endorsing their lawsuits and saying I deserve it. It was the very same law firms that sued him, Paul.
Okay, just to clarify on this one, here he's talking about the 500-word Truth Central bleat, as opposed to a tweet, the bleat that Trump put out. Or the zeet, if it's on X, it's a zeet, I suppose, about how Alex Jones basically deserved it. That was the zeet that he put out. That's not him endorsing the Onion purchasing. You see how he twists things around? This is how Alex Jones does this. Donald Trump says something negative about Alex Jones, and Alex Jones twists that into Trump endorses the Onion deal and facilitated it. Trump fired AG Pam Bondi in early April and replaced her with Todd Blanche as acting AG. Jones claims Blanche killed an investigation by Ed Martin, who Jones says was looking into the lawsuits against InfoWars. I see. Jones' exact framing with this was apparently Blanche killed the criminal investigation into what they were doing to me and shut down Ed Martin. There's no independent corroboration of any of that. It's completely made up. There probably wasn't even an investigation in the first place. Jones also has ties to Paul Weiss, the law firm that was sued by Donald Trump to shut them up, noting that they both represented Sandy Hook families against him and were involved in litigation against Trump before settling. That's interesting. Okay.
Weiss that are running all of it.
Let's step this back.
I didn't blame Trump for that, but I do now blame Trump for coming out and openly endorsing their lawsuits and saying I deserve it, when it was the very same law firms that sued him, Paul Weiss, that are running all of this. That's what represents the Onion turds. So Trump has now openly joined forces with the Democrat Party.
That's nonsense. He didn't. He just said, I don't like Alex Jones. That's pretty much it.
To shut down InfoWars. And it's just beyond disgusting. Absolutely blows me away. But I hope Grok can get it right. I hope everybody reading at the top of X with tens of thousands of posts can understand that when you go watch Ben Collins, the podcast today, he goes, I own the studios. We're in control now. Well, they have a hearing about it on the 30th, and we'll be challenging that. They're not even allowed to do that because it's still on appeal. They'll have massive damages against them if it gets overturned, which it will. Supreme Court's already signaled that in Texas.
Okay, yeah, gonna get overturned, absolutely. You're gonna win at the end of the day, right? Right, Alex?
But they don't care, folks. This is the insanity of these people. But regardless, they tried to take my real Alex Jones handle on X. Remember, Elon had to come in and block that because X wouldn't be safe if he didn't. So you'll be able to follow us there at Real Alex Jones on X and at AJN Live and on Rumble, the Alex Jones Show. You'll find out about the new website, the new sites, all of us. As far as I was.
Now he's cramming his stuff down your throat. Anyway, wow, that's interesting. He is fully turned on Trump. He's blaming Trump for something that is not Trump's fault in any way, shape, or form. This is the evidence that we needed that he has turned on Trump. When he finds an enemy, he blames everything on that enemy. Donald Trump just said, I don't like Alex Jones, basically. That was the extent of it. And now he's blaming Trump for facilitating the Onion intellectual property purchase and closing an investigation on, people who are persecuting him and all kinds of shit. That's wild, dude. What a fool. I appreciate the infighting, though. That's fantastic. Tell me what you think in the comments. All right. Tucker Carlson had a conversation with apparently his brother. This is his brother, Buckley. He looks like Donald Trump. He looks like he painted his face orange. Anyway, he said something really fascinating in this conversation. Check this out.
You and I and everyone else who supported him, you wrote speeches for him. I campaigned for him. I mean, we're implicated in this for sure.
Yeah, Buckley was a Trump speechwriter.
Yes. It's not enough to say, well, I changed my mind. Or like, oh, this is bad, I'm out. It's like in very small ways, but in real ways, you and me and millions of people like us are the reason this is happening right now.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. You're completely to blame. One of the big problems here, though, is that Tucker still holds the same vile, hateful, evil views that he held before. He still believes black people are inferior. He still believes, God, all of the insane QAnon garbage. Nicotine is actually good for you secretly, and the deep state's trying to hide it. That the vaccine was actually bad for you all along, and there are higher cancer rates because of it. All nonsensical trash. If these people reversed course on all of the vile, disgusting garbage that they believed, I might appreciate that and accept them into the movement. But they haven't. They don't like Trump. That's it.
So I do think it's like a moment to wrestle with our own consciences. We'll be tormented by it for a long time. I will be. And I want to say I'm sorry for misleading people. It was not intentional. That's all I'll say. But anyway, the question does present itself immediately, like, what is this? Was this always the plan? You don't want to be a conspiracy nut, but like, clearly there were signs of low character. We knew that.
Yes.
But it didn't, there are tons of people of low character who like outperform their character. It doesn't have to.
Don't you love his stupid fucking laugh? Yeah, Trump has low character, but maybe I would argue possibly the lowest character person. Let me rephrase. The biggest scumbag that has ever been president. That is a tall claim, and I'm gonna have to think about that and back that up with evidence if I'm gonna make that claim. Andrew Jackson was pretty fucking evil, and many others, but Trump is bottom of the barrel bad, and you knew that. He has no right being anywhere near the presidency.
But like, clearly there were signs of low character. We knew that.
Yes.
But it didn't, there are tons of people of low character who like outperform their character. It doesn't have to be.
Sort of the norm, actually, these days, I would say.
Not like Donald Trump.
Outperform my character a lot. I don't have especially high character, right? But, you try to, whatever, you try your best. But what was this? Was this always the plan?
Looking back after the last year and a half, it seems like it kind of was. And it's easy. Well, you could get really deep about it and say, what was Butler? Like, how was it that and Ryan Ruth? I mean, he was subject to 2 legitimate assassination attempts. Have we ever gotten to the bottom? I know you've talked a lot about this, but have we ever gotten to the bottom of that?
I haven't talked a lot about it. I don't.
That's weird. He said 2 legitimate assassination attempts. I believe they were both legitimate as well. I think it's too far-fetched to think that they were fake, honestly. But what's he even saying here? Like, what point is he trying to make here?
Don't know the answer, but I know that those investigations have been stymied. Fact.
Yeah, stymied from the very top.
I don't think the investigations were stymied. We learned plenty about that kid. What the hell was his name? The one who shot his ear? We learned plenty about him. People keep saying we know nothing about him. We know tons about him. Like, reporters on the ground went around to his friends at school and asked them questions and stuff. What more do we want to know about the kid?
People who actually would have the power to get to the bottom of it.
And the motive.
Feeling. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Very much. So
are they implying it's Israel that tried to kill him or something?
The enormous amount of money he got from Miriam Adelson now seems suspect to a lot of people at the time.
There you go. Miriam Adelson was what the hell was her husband's name? Not Roger Ailes. Something. What? I don't remember her husband's name, but he ran Fox News, I believe, or owned it or something, and now she's giving him hundreds of millions of dollars to do whatever Israel says, basically. She's a Zionist extremist, basically.
But, there's a lot of money in politics. To run for president requires an enormous, Kathleen Camel-Toe went through $2 billion and...
I'm sorry, what? What did you just call her?
President requires an enormous, Kathleen Camel-Toe went through $2 billion.
Why? Why would you call her that? That's such a cringy name to put to her. Rupert Murdoch, that was the name. God. Could not remember. What a horrifyingly disturbing and cringy name to give Kamala. And what's the point? Usually there's some reason why you give somebody a name. Sleepy Joe, because he was sleepy all the time, right? Crooked Hillary, because she was supposedly crooked. Why call her that, of all things?
In politics, to run for president requires an enormous... I mean, Cackling Camel Toe went through $2 billion in 4 months. So, sure.
I mean, she raised, I think, $1 billion or maybe $2 billion for her presidential election fund and spent that on advertising like every other president in human history has ever done, or in U.S. history. That's how it works. So are you saying there's corruption there or something?
Sure. There's an argument to be made that you get money from those who will give it to you. It's just the nature of that game. But it's still reprehensible, and it's still a big question mark. Why would someone who has obvious and demonstrated allegiance to a foreign power give Donald Trump $250 million while he's running for president? I mean, how is that defensible?
Talking about Adelson, Miriam Adelson. Yeah, that's not defensible. Why didn't you say that at the time? Why are you just now, a year later, bringing that up?
It's really not. If Russia had given a PAC for Trump, you know, if the mayor of Moscow had somehow, you know, assembled an enormous amount of money and put it in a 501c3 for Trump's benefit, would that have been acceptable? Of course it wouldn't have been. So what does someone, it's so basic, comes back to the money. Like, what did they get in return for that amount of investment? And it's clear.
I get it. No, I mean, of course, I agree.
I think he's talking about Miriam Adelson giving Trump $200 million, right? It's obvious that she was basically saying, all I need you to do is support Israel in what they want to do. And it brought him into a full-blown war as a result.
I agree with every word that you're saying. I just think, given his behavior and his demonstrated disloyalty and viciousness to previous supporters,
yes,
why wouldn't he display the same lack of loyalty to Miriam Adelson? I mean, that's kind of the question. The only people he's been loyal to are the neocons and his donors.
That's interesting, right?
I mean, that's kind of the question. The only people he's been loyal to are the neocons and his donors.
Miriam Adelson doesn't come out and say negative things about Donald Trump, but Tucker does. So you're pretending that he was disloyal to you when you were loyal to him. Well, you said negative things about him, and you didn't support him in the things that he wanted to do, obviously. That's why his loyalty waned effectively. But aside from that, you know, Miriam Adelson and all of the other Zionists, Christian Zionists especially, are so toxic to our political environment. So insanely toxic. Anyway, it's really interesting to watch Tucker turn on Trump in real time. And Buckley here is one of Trump's speechwriters, or was. He is effectively like Goebbels for Hitler, in that he forms out the way that he frames issues and the things that he should focus on and stuff. Fascinating to watch these two turn on him. Tell me what you think in the comments. Okay. I think that's where I'm going to call it for today. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. It's been fun, and I will see you guys tomorrow.